Get ready for the wave. Yeah, I'll have to prompt it. So. Hell yeah! I think I got it this time.
Nice. I love that. It's like a little sneak peek before the show. You're seeing like a second before what we're doing, which is usually drinking whiskey.
Talking about life, and oh my God, we got so many minutes before the show starts. Hey,
nice. Higgly in the chat. We got
yeah,
a bunch of people.
Thank you for joining us.
Totally.
We were just talking about this right before this. Is that we were like, we've been doing this. This is episode 52. We've done 52. This 52 times. Plus, there was a whole nother 50 we did on YouTube
beforehand. Yeah,
the before time. So,
nice. Origami
hey, thanks for lurking with us, and
Totally.
thanks for coming back. I know you had a bunch of busy stuff going on. We just love to be able to hang out with everyone. Yeah. And Ryan and I were talking about, if this is what it always is, this is what it is. We enjoy hanging out and being able to share the things that we would be doing anyway with y'all.
Adam has said multiple times, and I had before, that we're sort of just recording what would normally be a hangout between Adam and I of creating stuff and doing things and technology and art and 3D printing and all of that stuff. We would be talking about and doing that anyway, and now you're getting to join in on the fun.
And it's awesome because you helped us think about a cool
right?
things.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It's fun to share. Totally. It's fun to talk about these things. So
cheers to that. Cheers to that.
We've got a great show tonight from, my perspective. I always love to go these couple weeks and grind on little activities and do these things, and then Ryan, I got these things to show you. It's fun.
Exactly. We don't necessarily show each other all of the progress that we've been making throughout the entire 2 weeks in between, because I'll be like, I got to show Adam some stuff to show that I'm not just some lazy piece of crap that's not doing anything to help the show, but I want to hold stuff back, be able to show it on the show, which we're doing a lot of this week.
Which is great. And I've done some derailments from just working on the game. So we are going to show the game.
Totally.
Because that's what it's about. But there's some periphery things we've been doing about the game, and I'm excited to talk about it. So it's fun. We have our quick hits of the day that we usually go through. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Halo series and the Avatar series on Netflix and Paramount Plus.
That's just been going back and forth a lot in the Discord. How's that new live action Avatar the Last Airbender? And then, we've been going back and forth with Halo, and it ended to this. The final series of season 2 was today.
We are not going to spoil it if anybody's watching it. Just we're going to talk high level ideas and perspectives.
I mean, I guess it is based off a video game, but the storylines are very different between the two.
Yeah, so, it's completely different. And if you're playing all the games and reading all the books before you watch the series, you're going to be in for some major disappointment. That's all I got to say.
A little preview of that.
So Ryan has some quick hits. We usually have an AI hijinks. I have a AI experience I'm going to share this week, which cool. I'm really excited. I'm
totally.
I'm really stoked about it. I got to be years in the making on this experience. I got to tell you, cool. And I'll explain that in a bit. But what do you got, Ryan?
So there's a couple AI news story. This show isn't all AI, but I'm sort of plugged into that. I get a lot of those social things coming to it, and they do it with a lot of creative stuff. So there's a new Google DeepMind thing called SIMA, I guess, right? And it's an AI that plays video games, which I thought was kind of interesting. And then there's also an OpenAI thing where a robot was trained with speech, what is it? Speech to speech reasoning, with a robot. And they have a little 90-second trailer that I thought was fun.
Awesome. I love that. And then I canceled.
We should talk about that.
I canceled my Mid-Journey AI kind of thing.
So did I.
It was in Discord, and the reason why is ChatGPT stepped up with DALL-E, and I've been using the heck out of that.
Well, to be honest, and we've moved into this sort of pixel art, design work that I've been doing, and Midjourney does not do good pixel art. Like, it just doesn't, and DALL-E does it better. And so I was like,
talking about pixel art, Ryan. Oh my God. You were like queuing me up, baby. Hells amazing. Yeah. I got some stuff to talk about that.
Man. This
all
is
right.
Great. Okay. What do you want to jump into it?
What are we going to talk about the game?
Oh,
okay,
yeah,
this is about developing a Game Boy game if you didn't know. And so
for anyone new, to the show,
straight up nerding out on that is that. So you're gonna get to hear us talking about how we make a Game Boy game through a thing called GB Studio. We're gonna get into that a little bit. We're gonna show some of the progress we've made. We're gonna do a little bit of gameplays, a little bit of other things,
game layout, all sorts of things.
We got a promotion.
Oh, man.
Oh my God! Thank you for the promotion, sir.
Spam in the chat.
Where's our mods? Where's our mod on
what
this?
The heck?
I'm gonna turn that chat off for a second. Thank you for joining us, Hardy Pre 4. All right, so we got a show going. I also wanted to show some of the flow charting that we did too. We did some whiteboarding last time. We're gonna get into that. It'll be good times to talk about that.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get into it, Ryan.
Yeah.
Halo and Avatar. So
these are going to be quick hits, because not everybody watches these shows. Not of them, not the content isn't as dear to their hearts as us. But I do think so. We could start with Avatar first. There's been some talk in the Discord about like the new Avatar. Avatar: The Last Airbender is one of my favorite television series. I think the world building in it stands up to Star Wars and Tolkien. If you were going to be like, that's how people feel about like Avatar: The Last Airbender, the Nickelodeon cartoon for children. Okay, so that is a kick-ass show, and they've been trying to bring that magic ever since. Korra came out, which is an entire show. Didn't love that one necessarily. Obviously the M. Night Shyamalan movie was a disaster that critically panned and everyone hated it. So new live action thing comes out. Like a lot of discussion in the chat, about how it could be good, but the creators of the show were involved and then bailed out at some point, which is usually not a good sign. And I watched the whole thing. The family and I were ready to hate watch that entire show. And
I love hate watching
it and just like ragging on it and making fun of it and calling it down. And that did happen quite a bit because they need to cram 24 episodes or whatever ridiculous amount that was in the Nickelodeon show in the first season into 8 45-minute episodes. And what they do is they like grab from all across the different episode and cram storylines together that didn't happen. Characters interact that never happened before. Like they're just, it's like a mashup.
Let me explain how they made it. They were like, script of all avatars, copy ChatGPT, script this into live action Netflix series, please.
Take these 24 episodes and compress them into 8 episodes, right? And that's what happened. So you get a lot of like, I'm not showing you what's happening, I'm telling you what's happening.
Ooh,
right?
That's the worst
so then because you don't have time to build up characters and you don't have time to build up any of that stuff, and so you end up with like monologues explaining where we are in the story and how I'm feeling and all of that kind of stuff.
So you know what? Let's do this because we're taking quick hits. Let's just mesh in Halo with that because it's the same damn thing.
Exact thing was happening.
You brought a video game and you mashed it in, but this time they accidentally put a few extra words into the AI prompt that just completely bastardized the story, and they added a bunch of extra elements that just didn't align with the original story arc.
But I think that's a perfect segue. I will say in the end, like I enjoyed Avatar and at least somewhat for the special effects and some of those type of things. But for the most part, I feel like it's all like all the other live action remakes, Aladdin, Lion King, Beauty and the Beast, all of those live at Little Mermaid, all those live action ones. You're like the original was so much better.
And here's the deal then. The takeaway sounds like just don't even count it as part of that other thing. Just like look at it through another set of eyes.
Totally.
And the same thing is,
nice. Thank you, Mike. Mike Azul.
I have the same feelings about Halo. I originally thought like video game, they're gonna finally get it in there. I could share it with people that don't play it.
Yeah.
That was when
right?
I just want to show you a new feature of the show.
Ooh.
If you could right there. Master Chief helmet.
Dang,
you
nice.
Didn't see it.
So I have a Master Chief helmet. The audience can't see it, but I have a Master Chief helmet looking me in the face all the time.
Every single day. Yeah. Oh, you know what? Can we actually show it? I think we could show
Rotate
wait.
around.
Hold on a second. I have this way to do that. Let's. Oh, it's got to go this way.
There.
There
it is. Nice. You can see it. Perfect.
Little Master Chief. That has been staring at us the entire
since
time.
Literally episode 1. That is rather. And now he has like a weird bug on his face.
Don't worry about that. Don't worry about any of that. It's Master Chief over there, folks.
All right.
So, anyways,
he's got my front. He's got my back.
He's on it. So, anyways, Halo. My quick hit.
Yes.
No spoilers. Is they diverted the story.
Yeah.
They had something that smells like Halo in there.
Right.
And I liked certain aspects of this
Totally.
season. I got to
Me
be
too.
honest.
Totally.
Better than the second season or first season,
Yes.
but not as like it still just didn't hit
Yeah.
the right notes for me. And some of the choices on the story was like, you had a good story, guys.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Why don't
wait
you
a
just,
second?
Yeah.
I want to take a timeout.
Okay.
Because in the middle of our Halo runs, I think we did call crap on the story a couple times. Remember the grave mine?
Yeah, okay. Certainly Halo is not like free of screw ups in their storyline for sure. Man, yeah, the grave mine. There's a ton of stuff from like episodes like 3 and 4 that I just like don't even understand. But Halo 1, I feel like had a great storyline, and that's I feel like in some ways that's kind of what they're following.
They're trying to go for it. It's just the way they got there is bad. So I guess the hot take is if you're looking at the Halo series, don't think you're going to get this experience like the game.
I think some really great choreographed action scenes. I think some of that is very, very good. Some of it with like certain interactions with characters and certain storylines, I think totally passable and totally great. But for the most part, just like unmemorable. Like I even forget what is happening in between. I almost feel like they should put it out all in one shot. Like they should just put out 8 episodes.
You know what? I'm going to disagree with you on that
Really?
because I like the anticipation. And here's the reason why is that I've been practicing reflection a lot more.
Sure.
And so after an episode, I'm like, let me think through it a little bit more. Why did they make that choice or what's going Not everyone does this, but then it helped me to like remember the episode and be like,
Sure.
oh yeah, that's where we're going next time. That was awesome. I like the slow release because I get on Netflix and then when I have like, oh, I could binge the hell out of this.
Yeah.
What ends up happening, I'm just like, well, I'm going to just not do it because it's too damn long. But if they like drip feed it and I get to watch an episode and that's it,
true.
I'm in and out.
That's true. The only issue is I forget what's happening week to week, and the storylines and the characters that they have aren't like compelling enough for me to,
They have recap. That's the whole new thing anymore. They're like, here's the entire story.
Here's the entire story back to you because we know you have an attention span of a gnat.
Because you just binge watch 20 other episodes of a bazillion other things, so it makes sense. So, anyways,
cool.
That's how Ryan loves the Avatar and Halo. I love Halo. I got to check out Avatar.
Derivative artworks of things. Not usually as great as the original.
It's because we're old and we're just like, I remember back in the day when this was the thing. Because I asked my kids that and they're just like, whatever, that was awesome. I'm like, all right, fine, whatever.
I hope that's Origami in the chat. Talon in the chat is like, Avatar makes me viscerally angry. I hope that's the live action one that you were talking about, my friend, because the cartoon Avatar is amazing. Everyone, the only takeaway from this is hopefully it's all on Netflix. Go and watch the original. We ended our run of Avatar just as the very last end point of this. We ended our run of Avatar and instantly went in and watched the first 3 episodes of the cartoon. Afterwards.
You're like, cleanse
I need
me,
to cleanse
please.
my palate. See, all right, nice. He loves the cartoon. That's what I love.
Well, that's the problem. It's like is people take something that's super good and like you can't improve that sometimes.
And sometimes it's like it's a moment in time. right? And you shouldn't be trying to recreate it all the time.
It's like nobody has a new thing anymore. That's like AI is a thing. Everything's derivative of everything anymore.
All right, next. As soon as we got into AI makes it derivative, we got to move on.
We're going to talk about AI.
Okay,
give us a heads up on what we're talking about.
Yeah,
what we're looking at.
Google DeepMind. Google DeepMind is like a big part of, Google's AI strategy, and they have created this thing that is called SIMA. And what I think this is, or what this talks about, is basically like using AI generally to be able to transverse a bunch of digital worlds and not just be able to text and say, go and pick up the key, or go and get and drive around in the car. And it not necessarily being programmed as AI for that particular game, but in any 3D world, it can start doing this. And what I thought was interesting about this...
Wait, what is it doing?
So you can drop it into a game, drop it into one of these games, and give it sort of natural language prompts like, go jump over that fence and pick up the key, right? Or like, go to the car and drive it into the garage. And what it can do is it doesn't know anything about that game, right? It jumps in and it goes... okay, key and garage, right? Or key and car. And you would think like, what I thought at first is I was like, isn't that what AI does in games all the time, right? Like an AI character, your NPC or your enemy goes and grabs things and puts it there and does stuff. But they're like specifically programmed for that world and how that world works. And this one is more like a general AI agent that goes in and can know like what to do. And basically what they were saying is like, it's not about doing this in video games, but video games is an easy analog for maybe having robots doing it, or maybe having, things in real life going and grabbing you things and doing stuff in a sequence. And so I thought it was kind of interesting.
So it's like basically you're dropping in AI, giving it some things, and it learns the world. Like, just taking more jobs on game testing, all these other...
Yes, definitely. But more to the point of like, AI right now just sort of is like an oracle that gives you things, where what they wanted to be able to do is like perform tasks. And if I want to be able to tell my nanny robot to go and get milk from the grocery store, like that's 1,000 different tasks that happen with the car and getting the keys for the car and all of that. And what they want is they want to be able to basically practice inside a video game 3D reality, which I think that's smart. That makes sense.
I mean, it's interesting. It's like just showing what we discussed this last year about how it's evolving. Everyone's using it in a gazillion different ways. We talked about last year the AI hijinks and all the things that's like disrupting in the thing. And like, this is another one.
Totally.
I mean, I like that we look at it from the positive side most of the time, because there's so much negativity about it, and it's there. And I gotta be it seeps into me too. I'm like, man, that is a bad thing, just because I think it has some potential to do some amazing things for humanity.
Yeah.
But it's going to be capitalized, and people are going to use it to make money, and it's not going to help people like actually do certain things. And that's the problem with it. And so, for instance, this is interesting. You get to train it in a game, and then it's like, so that they could sell a sweet robot that can do these things in your house for you, and you have to pay a subscription to have nanny robot pour you milk.
I guess, but if all jobs go away, like there is no income level to purchase nanny bot, right? And so in some ways there is like a incentive for companies like that to be able to like have a class of people that can afford things. It can't just be like everyone is it's all owned by OpenAI and everyone else just like gives them back rubs for their income.
I mean, you're not wrong. It's just, it feels like they're gonna suck everyone dry for whatever it can possibly do to make profits for stakeholders.
Okay, so let's move on to this robot now.
The philosophical rabbit hole. Just let's acknowledge that we go down totally. It every time. Every time. This one is interesting. I mean, high level AI, cool things that are coming out. Yeah. This was shared. Are we gonna just watch this whole video? Is that what we want to do?
It's like it's 2.5 minutes. I don't think we need to watch the entire thing, but you could definitely mute it.
You want to? What, we got to listen to it. That's part of the thing.
Is that part of the thing?
Yeah.
I guess because it is. So this is a company, right, that creates robots.
Hey, Figure One. What do you see right now?
what they're
let us do its thing.
Yeah, I know, but people can look over the top.
I see a red apple on a plate in the center of the table, a drying rack with cups and a plate, and you standing nearby with your hand on the table.
Great. Can I have
I'm
something
going
to
to
eat?
murder you
Yeah, right.
with my robot laser eye.
I love how
Sure
smooth it moves, though.
Oh shit.
Like transferring it from one hand to the
Right.
other and dropping it in his
Can you
hand.
explain why you did what you just did while you pick up this trash?
And like you could tell it takes a little bit. It has to like hit a server and
So I
then
gave
come
you the
back.
apple because it's the only edible item I could provide you with from the table.
Oh, he's like, here's your
Great.
freaking
So,
thing of trash.
Well, like, okay, first of all, I
Yeah.
love how it's like, go hit the prompt, put it in the thing, run
Yep.
the prompt, come back to you. You could just feel
exactly. And then like now tell the because it's almost like I bet the actual mechanics of the robot is quite a bit different than like the
Yeah, that's true.
talking that
Well, I
it's
mean,
doing.
yeah, you got to relate that to what's happening. That's
based on
true.
the scene right now,
Yeah.
where do you think the dishes in front of you go next?
I have to pause.
But that's what it is now,
The
but in
dishes on
like
the
3
table,
years,
like
right?
that plate and cup are likely to go into the drying rack next.
Great. Can you put them there?
It's like assessing the scene, but they really put that scene together.
Right.
In a way.
Totally, 100%. But again, like this is where it is right now, right?
I like how
And
you
that
put,
thing can't move around very much. Like
I love how it put the plate in there, though. That was nice.
Totally.
Oh, and it kind of moved it to the side.
yeah,
It's like,
it was
get
like
this out of here.
yeah, you're fine.
All right. So, how do you think you did?
Gotta think about it.
I think I did pretty well. The apple found its new owner, the trash is gone, and the tableware is right where it belongs.
I agree. Thanks, Figure One.
You're welcome. If there's anything else you need help with, just let me know.
He's like, get out of here. I'm done with
Yeah,
you,
it's
robot.
like robot bartender, right? Like pour me a Manhattan, and it does the Manhattan for you.
I mean, I saw this one too. Pretty interesting. I love
Yeah.
it because there was and I did not grab the article, but there was something that just came out where they're actually trying to sell your assistant in your kitchen or something, or for your house. There's a company that actually has a robot that does something similar that you can buy now.
I could totally see something that cut up things and sauteed things and did stuff like
Seems very dangerous.
well, like we're talking kitchen robots, right? And so
Sure.
like if it did something, even if it was just like arms that came out,
Oh my
and did a bunch
God,
of stuff,
a cooking
took
robot?
things, and like took things out of stuff and like cut that up and added it to
Damn.
stuff that was just right there. Like that would be
I
pretty
would
sweet.
buy a freaking cooking robot because I just don't like. I love the murder robots cut things up. I would love to have a cooking robot, and the
Yeah.
reason why is because, like, I love to eat. Like we all
Sure.
gotta eat,
Sure.
right? I look at my credit card bill and they show me the percentage of amount of money that I spend on groceries and going out to damn restaurants is the most
They're
thing I
like
spend my money on.
it's more than your mortgage. You're like, God damn it.
It's a lot. But if I had one, I was like an AI that would look at your fridge, and I know this happens where you can have an AI that like, or maybe it's not even AI, but it looks inside your fridge. It's a camera, and it
Yeah.
tells you what's in there, and it's like, here's the recipes of what you can make within your fridge or pantry. But it'd be so much better if you were like, sweet, here's what's in my fridge. Make me this thing, and then you get little robot to go cook it up and do the thing and make it out.
Here's what I want. Is so your kitchen is now make sure that you have it like built in your house so that it's on an exterior wall. And the refrigerator is just on like a drive up thing. And the grocery store robot brings your food that whatever the kitchen robot wants to make, places it in the refrigerator from the outside of your house. Then the robot from the kitchen takes it
God.
out of your house, right? It takes it out of the refrigerator and the cabinets. It can reach all of that and makes all of your meals for you. Man, that is me entering like a Wall-E world of floating around and being fat. But it could also be really great, right? Because then it could be making you really healthy things that taste amazing, and you'd be like, sure, I'll eat this like spinach salad because it's so awesome.
I just need that. Like
Yeah.
I need it to tell me what to eat too. Like
Right.
I don't even want to make the decision anymore.
And it's like monitoring your feces, and so it knows
great.
that you're like you're down on iron, so it added more spinach to your your meal today.
Poop robot says
Exactly.
you need more.
Your bidet robot like is ratting on you. Anyway, that one's fun.
Wow, you
I feel like the robot thing, it really stalled out for a long time, and they're picking it up because of this like large language models, which is interesting.
It's great. I think there's some opportunities. So we let's go to Midjourney.
Yeah,
talk
yeah.
about Midjourney a little bit.
So we didn't. So neither of us have Midjourney accounts. So I think we should like maybe watch a video about it or something like this.
So there's a rando
Your
video.
skin isn't the same as everyone else's.
Yeah,
Oh
your
my God.
skin,
Aging
baby.
How do we
designed
not
future
mute
formula,
this?
A personalized
Oh.
anti-aging formula.
Because I got to go to YouTube to be able to mute that.
To even mute it.
If I do it through DuckDuckGo, I've been noticing.
I put
that's
one
better.
in. I put one in Trello. I think.
Did
that
you?
had this.
Oh, you already did.
that-
This is just some randos video, but let's talk about it. What's going on?
Yeah. Well, so this might be something that makes me pick up Midjourney again, because what this is Midjourney has I dropped it, right? Adam dropped it. We've just been using DALL-E because I don't need to pay that $10 a month.
Well, let's tell what it is. This is a good shot for it.
And so what they've introduced over this last week is that they have consistent characters. So a lot of times what you find when you're doing prompts inside of DALL-E or Midjourney is that you can get it to make something cool, but if you want to keep that exact same character with the eye patch and the certain type of hair and the certain scar on their face or whatever, that like it won't do it. It keeps switching it around. They look slightly different. They're younger, they're older, they're, have different glasses, whatever. And so now what you could do is you can like, let's say you get one and you're like, boom, that is it. That is the character. Then you can upload that as a character reference, and every character that it kind of creates after that, hey, he's got the blue glasses, right? He's got the suit on that I want him to specifically have on. And so how that could really help us is like at some point we're going to have like probably cutscenes for this Game Boy game, like beginning scene. I could see there being some cool like introductory stuff, or even larger screens where people are talking and you get more pixels. Like we'll need a character that here's what Roby looks like, right? Here's what the alien archaeologist looks like. Here's what these characters look like. And if we could get it so where they could give us prompts that always had the same looking character, that could be really great for brainstorming that stuff, or like getting some kind of
Well, I love the concept.
sheets together.
I just love the idea that you can like start to build consistency. I just did this this last like year. I was making a presentation, and I was like, how am I going to get this consistent character? And it wasn't. It was like close, but like I was trying to make a character of myself, and the beard would be long, it'd be short, he'd be old, and like the prompt would always get something different. So if you can reference that character and build it out, you're going to have some awesome opportunities.
And what they have right now, they already have reference like images that you can take. So when you upload an image into Midjourney right now, you can give it that like reference and it will do the style, right? And it'll do the something. But this new thing that they're doing is very specifically like a character reference, which I think is really cool, because then it's not just getting the style, it's like looking at very specifically the character, and I'm sure creating a prompt in the background that makes it so that character stays the same look and has the same glasses and jawline and age and all of that, which is really interesting. Like that's such a cool way to go.
I absolutely think that's an amazing thing to do, and it's something that is just like it's going to keep building onto it, because I think the next step of it, as you start to think about it, is okay, you get an image, but now if you're doing like a video scene or something more, like you're just building onto it. It's like future state is, hey, here's a sweet character. Make this into all of this other aspect of a piece of multimedia.
You're totally right, because right now the thing that limits it is you can make one neat picture. But like one neat picture does not make a comic book, or does not make a show, or does not make something, right? So then you're sort of limited in what you can use that for. But if you can create like same scenes and same characters, then you could build whole narrative arcs around that character and stuff, which is nice.
Which I think is awesome.
Totally.
So
I am excited. So Adam has built a thing in using ChatGPT. I sort of played with it. If you haven't subscribed to the Discord, go to doubledropdown.com and like subscribe to the Discord, because like Adam shared a thing, and anyway, I'm excited to hear more about it.
This is okay. So over the last year, we played with AI. We played with what? Imagery.
Yep.
We played with a little, like we looked at video stuff, and then we've done a lot of text prompting. We did audio kind of prompting and like learning on things. And so I got to call out a conversation I recently had with Mike Azul. And so I won't get into too much depth about it. So thanks, Mike. Is we were sitting around a bar when I was visiting him at one point, and we were just talking about like where we're at. And one of the things that's a little bit tough is that a lot of us have done things for a lot of our life, and AI steps in and it basically like almost, I wouldn't say invalidates our learning, but at a point it gets to a point where you're like, man, why did I spend all this time like learning this thing, and now this thing spits it out in 2 minutes?
Totally.
Now, I don't think it's completely a bad thing, because what I can see is like, okay, fine. I have a little bit of background now on how to do that, because but now I can like push myself harder and I can build more on top of it. Yeah. But it is scary. I'm going to just put that out there, is that I see parts of like our jobs going away because there's these things that can do it like really a lot better. Yep. And so that conversation got me thinking about what are things that I couldn't actually even do because I just didn't have enough time to figure it out. And one of the things that I had done is I used to run my own company for web development. As a web consultation firm, I worked with people for years. I lived through static websites before there was phones. Like you would just have a fixed layout. It would never adjust. And then I remember when like responsive design, meaning that you have a cell phone, you bring a website and it adapts to that screen size, or a tablet. And I was like, oh my God, I can't even do this anymore. Then I learned it and I was like, okay, I got it a little bit more. And then like I let it go, and now it's just so much further along in the future. So the other day, Ryan, just as you were saying, and I think like he did not even mean to like stage me up for this. Nice. Is Ryan has been talking about using AI to come up with some of the images for our game. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, I want to try this, because I needed something. I was like, I need a pixel that does this thing. And so I was like, all right, ChatGPT, I need a very specific pixel-sized art with these colors, and what can I do to make this happen? I actually prompted it to say, tell me the prompt to get the exact thing that I need to get out of it. I was trying to say like, Dolly, give me the prompt so I can get exact pixel art. And I'm just going to share what that response was right now, because I think it's important just to kind of share a little bit of what that experience was for me. So what you're seeing right here is that original prompt. So I need to create a specific size pixels art and also control the colors used in the output. What AI can I use, or what prompt approach would help me make that happen?
Okay.
That's where I started.
Yeah.
So the first thing that goes in is like, hey, guess what? We're in AI. We really can't get you specific dimensions or pixel types or any of that kind of stuff. Okay. So it's like, I was like, okay, fine. Yeah. And then it starts going into like, well, you know, there's other tools out there that can do that, like Pixel 5 that we've used, and a couple other AIs that do that. And then it's like, hey, you can use some custom scripts. And then you can like prompt it differently, or other tools or feedback loops. And I'm like, okay, whatever. And I was like, can you help me make one of those things?
Right.
I was like, my first thing, I was like, shit, I'm going to just have you make the application. Right. Now, if you look at the scroll bar on the side here, I'm not going to go through all this. I prompted this thing gazillion times. This is probably around 5 hours of prompting and thinking about things like, how long was that script just to run that? And if you look over to the side, I left it on there a lot of times. I replayed this script multiple times, multiple ways to do this. Yep. And so without going through the whole journey of it, I have experience with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Sure. I know JavaScript not as much as I know HTML and CSS, but I know enough to be dangerous. So that's my foundation. Okay. So I knew that like whatever came out of this, and I'm going to scroll down just a little bit. And one of the first things is I was like, okay, let's do some simple things. My first thing, can you help me make a pixel generator that it would be a tool to say, if you had an 8x8 pixel grid, how could you make that so that I could quickly start editing some things on that on a like a little web app? So what it does is it's like, oh, okay, well, here you go. Here's some JavaScript code. And it's like, it's not even like the complete code. You know how where to put it. But yeah, what question did you have?
Well, like, yeah. So how much when it's giving you this type of code, you know, it's not just building you a whole web page for you, right? It's sort of giving you little snippets of things.
Snippets?
Like how far into knowing what this stuff even means or where to compile it or any of that stuff is needed to create some of these things?
Well, that is a great question because I do two things. Number one, I was like, holy crap, I opened up a whole nother corridor of things I could do. And so I'm going to show you my prompt in a second, but I experimented the hell out of this because look at first prompt, 2 sentences. My second prompt, 2 sentences, 3 sentences. And then I started seeing it and I was like, okay, can you do it with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript? And it started giving me more of what I was looking for. And I was like, wait a second. And so what I would do is I would go into here, I could hit copy code, and I had to know where to put these couple files to make them actually come together.
Work together, yeah.
So without showing you a lot of this, I want to show you after this was about 5 hours of work of me prompting, not things working.
Sure.
I'd say it did about 95% of the code writing. And then I had to do about 5% of the tweaks to make this first thing work. Okay. So you're going to get a couple things. The very first thing you're going to get is, hey, welcome to Double Dropdown website. If you haven't been to Double Dropdown, check us out, doubledropdown.com. And now I know this is a shameless pitch for this right now. But what I wanted to show you is if you go at the top now, we have projects and we have apps. We got rid of the store because we're not selling anything yet when you get that. So if you go to the projects, you can see our 3D printing stuff. But I added this apps. And the reason why I did that is now we have a thing called a Game Boy tile generator. And this is what came after about 5 or so hours of work. And so let's just go look at what we were able to create in AI. So what I wanted to do is in Game Boy, we create these tiles. And tiles are made out of an 8x8 pixel piece of art. And I'm just going to chuck this in the chat. If anyone wants to play with it, you can play with it right this second. Welcome to hanging out with us on the stream. This is what you get. So the very first thing is, after multiple prompts, multiple things that didn't work, is it created pieces of this app. And of course, I had to edit some things to actually make it work. The first thing is, if I hit this generate tile at the bottom, what it's going to do is auto randomly associate the 4 Game Boy colors on an 8x8 grid.
Okay.
And these 8x8 grid pieces are awesome because then you can take them into editors and you would basically repeat those tiles. And we were talking about, hey, if we wanted a pattern, we would want that pattern to be in there and see how we can like reuse it. One tile is only like takes the hit on the memory one time. So if we got like a cool one, we could do that.
Cool.
So I figured like hitting repeat, like there's a lot of cool like things that come out of it.
Right.
But then I was like, so I got this is probably generation 5 or 6 at this point. Okay. I got it to the generation. I got it, and I was like, man, what if we wanted to edit something? I was like, okay, let's make it editable. Okay. So I created these little things. Now you can click on it, and you can click. Now, if I click and try to drag, it doesn't do anything.
Sure.
So
you got to click on each one.
You have to click on, but then it updates below.
Right.
You get to see what the pattern might be.
Totally.
And then I was like, well, what if you get a cool pattern? And you wanted to save it. So you click in one of these things and I save that pattern.
Oh, nice.
And then I can hit generate a new one and you keep generating. Oh, I want another pattern. And you click that. And so now you can save it. Now here's the cool thing. I also made it that if you refresh the page, it keeps your patterns and your favorites because it saves it in your local browser cookies.
Oh, nice.
So you get that. So then I figured,
not GDPR compliant. This website, I'm gonna say.
Yeah, well, probably
it's not asking about what cookies I'm saving.
So when you go down, and the thing here is you can click and you can add any one of these colors to the thing, and then you can save that. And you can come back later.
Oh, that's great.
That is where it goes. Now you got to listen really closely here.
Okay.
If I hit export tile. That's the Nintendo Game Boy drop down if you not know about it.
Nice.
And then it creates a PNG of the exact single tile 8x8 pixels that we can use inside of the app.
Love that.
So my mind was blown because I'm like, I made this app with about
Right.
5 hours of work. And I didn't really know how to approach some aspects. I totally know the HTML. I totally know the CSS. Makes complete sense. I had to like tweak it to make that happen. So took a lot of time to do that. I posted this guy. Nerd glasses for sure. Nerd. Not cookies. Okay, local storage, nerd cookies. See? I don't even know. He knows, and he's even using what do you call it? Markup to show that. So local storage and cookies are different. And you know what, Mike Azul, is I figured that out today because I tried to recreate the app and I used the word cookies, and it was like, oh my god, you can't use cookies. So local storage and cookies, whatever.
I see. Okay.
I'm not that smart yet, and that's some JavaScript stuff that I just did not know enough about of what that was about. So this is the version that I got to completely work.
Yeah.
Works on a cell phone. So if you were going to go to like responsive mode, responsive design, it will adapt to based off of like your phone screen. Like of course there's a certain point where it's not going to go, but like it will like get bigger and smaller and do all the things that you need to do. That's where I left it. So I went on this channel. So there's a GB Studio channel out there. And they have graphics help. And what I did, and like I didn't get like a crazy amount of like cred on it, but I was like, hey, I have this simple way to generate some tiles. And in this particular Discord channel, I was just like, here you go. So I got 8 likes, which I mean, I kind of looked up and there wasn't a lot of people that got likes on their stuff on there. And so then people were like, holy crap, that's actually like a useful thing. So this person's like, handy tool. If you're looking for some feedback, holding and clicking to draw would be a nice addition. And then they're like,
cool.
Really, you should do a 16 by 16 tile.
Isn't this like almost this is how projects get built, right? It's like you make a tiny thing and then people are like, oh, it's interesting and here's some feedback, and then you go, oh man, okay, maybe I could add that. And so now do you think you could go, you know, because a lot of times when I'll do like prompts, right? Like you come back afterwards and you go, okay, now take this and take it further or something. Can you go back to what, or I'll be like, I rewrote your stupid paragraph that you wrote me and here's what it is now. Now add to this. I feel like part of that is what you need to do now, right? Is you're like, I added my extra 5% to make this actually work. Now look at this website and make it so that it can draw with like by holding down control or whatever.
100%.
Cool.
So here's the thing. I have an update and no one has seen about this. So we're going to say like, well, how did I take it? So you know what, in the full disclosure, if you watch this video, you can see my prompt. What I did was I was iteratively going back and forth. I was like, hey, I just need this little tiny thing. And I was like, okay, let's look at a little bit of this. I think it's important to kind of just go through a little bit of the journey. As I started to figure it out, what I would do is like, okay, I'm going to start asking things and be like, here are the revisions that I need.
Right.
Write out the app based off the revisions. And I kept going back and forth. A lot of these did not even work. Like whatever happened, it missed up. Something would not work. And so then I was like, how am I going to do this? I'm like, okay, here's revisions, here's additions. You kept going back and forth. I just crashed PC with 12 lines of Mac Lab. Yeah, good job on that one, buddy. So what was happening though is as I was going back and forth between this, I was like learning not only how to create the app, but learning how to prompt it.
Yeah.
So if you look up to the side here, like enhancing tile, add HTML, enhance, I have a crap ton of different features.
Right.
I'm just going to expose it to you. I'll let you everyone know what my prompt was. So I came up with my master prompt, and this is what I ended up with. Help me make a pixel art generator, bullet points of every feature, and then an action of assume the role of a senior web app developer. You were a thorough, efficient, effective, research, implement, complete code.
It's funny you have to say those things.
You create an exact HTML, CSS. So I go into this whole diatribe of saying like, this is exactly what I need to do. And then I put it on repeat. Every time I reprompt, I put the exact same thing in there and just another like little element of it so that I actually get the code out. And so I found some limitations because sometimes it would be like, yeah, here's the code. And then it would put like, here's a placeholder where you would put the code for your JavaScript.
You're
I'm like,
no,
don't do that. What are you doing? And so it took me maybe 4 or 5 days and another 12 hours to get to V2 of this.
Okay.
And I was motivated on it, and it's still fresh. There's some kinks in it that I'm figuring out. But let's take a quick look at V2. Okay. So this is V2. It may not look as awesome, but number one, what I got in this is it's 16 by 16 pixels now.
Okay.
So one of the things is right now I'm going to hit this reset button. And it'll say, are you sure you want to clear the canvas? So I do. First, it starts and shows it in a grid. Right. So now you can kind of see it so you know how many 16 by 16 is. And then I created an edit mode. So you can toggle edit mode on or off. And I realized that when you're on a device and you're rolling your thumb on the device, it would write on the screen. So now you can turn the edit mode on and off.
Okay.
But what you also can do, so I'm going to enter edit mode, is you can pick your color and you can drag.
Oh, nice.
So now you got drag functionality.
Amazing.
And then you have your reset button, so you can reset it. You have still the random generate if you just want to get some randomness in there. It does have the local storage. You refresh it, and now there's no favorites, but it keeps wherever you were at last.
Right, yeah.
And
Nice.
you can export the tile,
Perfect.
and then of course you can reset it when you're done and getting ready to go.
Wow, that seems like so many so many additions to it.
Huge
it's amazing.
upgrade. And then when you hit export, you got your thing.
of course.
Now, one little caveat, and why I haven't released this version yet, is that I needed to get it to actually like export the PNG at the actual pixel size it does. But I love the grid feature.
Yeah, that's
and
great.
Here's why this is valuable. I don't want to explain this because this is a perfect segue into our next pieces.
Okay.
So Ryan, this is why there's value here.
Yeah.
We have to create tiles for our game. So let's say we're going to create a brick. So I would say, let's get in edit mode, and let's say we're going to create a brick. So I could go over here, and I can start drawing like what a brick might look like.
Yep.
And we could start in this. So of course you'd have to, create some features in here and delete some stuff. I'm not very good at the mouse right now. But if we were saying this was a brick, and that's about 8 by 8, I think.
Totally.
And then you could say maybe there was a brick that went, and oh man, I gotta.
It's the top of the mouse, but
it's actually really good on a cell phone. But what you could start to see is,
right, you're like, here's what that. I love the idea of having it duplicated. Down
yeah,
at the
so you
bottom.
get to see like
Right.
what it's doing.
Because that is hard.
underneath.
Because it is hard. I have definitely gone through an A sprite and been like, oh, I have to change this sprite because I thought it would look I thought it would look cool, but when you butt it up against the other one, it doesn't.
So essentially, what you're creating is a way for you to like rapid prototype a tile, and then because they're 16 by 16. You can see where the overlap is. So that is what the bricks would look like in there. And if you're like, well, I think the brick should have like a little like element on it that looks like this. And then, this, it would probably be here on this part. You can really start creating a full app. Now I probably need a drop in like fill functionality to this or whatever that might be to like fill the color. I actually even experimented with putting full, different colors that you could create in here. But generally, how freaking helpful could that possibly be as we started using this app?
Yeah, totally. Especially even if it's just for prototyping something real quick and drawing it out and being like, okay, export that and then I'll bring it into Sprite, right?
100%.
Like having something where you can just sort of play with it. Well, I know I'm bookmarking this because the old version I was like, what do I need a random like thing for? But being able to draw this and do with it now, I feel like now it's like really good.
Well, and here's the reason why I did this. I'm going to be completely honest, is that I am sometimes sitting there on a break or I'm somewhere and I'm just like, I want to do some pixel art, but I don't have an app on my phone to do it. And so the cool thing about this is mobile friendly is how I built it. That's why it's all crunched in there like that.
Sure.
Is that you do this all with touch with your thumb. And you can create this and you can save it and you can export it.
Yeah.
And then the cool thing is, and I think this is a good transition. So since I haven't worked on this one to get the export 100% done, it does export, but it exports not at the right size that I need. So that's why it's not been released yet. Okay. But if we go back to this one, I'm just going to give you a quick example.
Yeah.
Is I actually have the very first random tile generated that I have, and I put it as my fave icon and everything in here. So
nice.
That was like the first one I got out of it. But let's say we generate this icon. This is the one we want. So I say export PNG. Okay. And we'll save this one, and I'll just check this one on the desktop. This is how it becomes worthwhile. And look at, I even put double drop down dash tile. Nice. I went like full bore, like like little ding. Yeah. You have to put all that in there.
Was that you or was that AI?
So I had to say, I'm showing the next thing.
What? Oh my god.
So if I come into here and I was gonna say file and import, and actually I'm just gonna open it. So I'll say file open, and on the desktop. There's my little double drop down tile, and there it is.
Yeah, and actually 8x8.
8x8. So this was spawned by your thing of like, I can't get the sweet pixels in there.
Right.
And so then you put that little tiny tile in there, and then let's see. So if I'm in this bucket here, now I can start to copy and paste those tiles. Now I think the background needs to be
the same.
Yeah. So let me I'd have to put a grid on.
Okay, show the rest of it. I gotta use the rest.
Fair enough. So I think that's what where we got with this. I was super stoked about it. What do you think, chat? I mean, AI, we've done a lot of like imagery. We've done a lot of other things. Now we have the ability to create apps in here. I thought that was a fun thing that we can be able to do. So as we start going forward, we have apps now on our website. So we're going to put any apps that we generate on there. It's pretty sweet. So, yeah, creating tools for the project. That's what we were out there for. It feels so nerdy in the amount of times I watched it do the code and I tried it and then it didn't work. It took a lot of work. And I did remember our conversation, Mike, because like I think that was really impactful for me. I was just like, man, I feel you on where we're at with certain things. So I'm glad that I could start to push myself, because one of the things that I learned here was I was really good at HTML. I was really good at CSS. I was pretty good at JS and just a basic sense, but this was able to push it so much further because I was like, man, I know it can do this and I can make something. So I'm going to give it away for free. I mean, it's not like I'm the creator, so to speak, but it's a way for me to, I guess I'm the creator through prompts. And I did have to adjust the code. Even in the latest version, I had to go in the JavaScript and change some of the functions to even get it to do what it needed to do. But what was really interesting about that project is every time I would generate the JavaScript code, it would do it completely different. Like the way that it would be like, here's the methodology.
That seems right.
Like, here's something cool. And then I would do it again, and it was like those two JavaScript files couldn't come together.
Oh man, because they were so different from
They were
each
so
other?
different, so you couldn't intermix them. But anyways, enough vamping about that. Sure. I was so excited about it and the amount of like things. Did I show the... Oh yeah, I already did, so that's cool. So now we can image generate, because I was like, Ryan, if we need to make a pixel character, and I'm going to be honest, like the next version that I already have in mind is like making a sprite editor, so that you can like make a bunch of different sprites and then animate like a GIF of it, so you could like test doing something. We'll see how far I can get on that. Like I feel like extended and sorry, Stealth Mouse, that was probably way more time that you would have then wanted me to be working on a little app that does a little thing, but it was pretty good. It was fun. All right, I'm done. Ryan, let's get into it, because I think that was some basic building block and probably a good example of what the hell we're trying to do. Is those little 8x8 pixels are the very cornerstone of what is going to make our game. And you have some stuff that you wanted to show me.
Well,
what's you been up to?
Yeah, so I've been working on a lot of pixel art, right? I feel like Adam wrote me at one point this week and was like, hey, I don't think we're going to have Photoshop on this computer that we were using, because we've done that before. And I would say, and this is the first week where I was like, that's fine. Like, I have transitioned completely at this point to the project. What are we in? How many weeks are we in? Like, I am completely A-sprite and tiled now.
Yeah.
Like my transformation is complete. And so what Adam has been doing, like releases that are on, our Discord, if you're playing on itch.io, our Skull Bobs game, Adam has been releasing these amazing sort of like rooms that he's created, and we're just kind of figuring out like how sort of the dynamics of the character work. But they've been, you know, like Adam has been doing very cool like pixel art for it, you know, to figure things out. He needed that. And so I was like, well, okay, like I've been doing experiments in it. And so I came up with a couple different backgrounds, and I feel like as I went, what does this actual game look like that we're creating? Part of it was like, there is gameplay elements that go into which style of game that you're creating, right? If your idea is this type of game, right? You know, like whether that's jumping on platforms, you know, or searching for things, or, you know, Metroidvania, like all of those different types of games, they're built in certain ways because of how the story that you want to tell and the gameplay mechanics that you're going to have. And so I built kind of two versions of what we started with Skullbob's Tavern, right? Like the tavern that we're going to be in for the very beginning of the game. And the first one, if we want to show that one, is kind of the platformer, what I would call like a traditional almost Metroidvania style game.
Let's do this if you don't mind.
Yeah.
It's like where were we at, and then we'll transition to your art, because my art was more of like placeholder, and then what Ryan was doing.
I thought it was good though. Like
So if you don't mind, I'll do a quick playthrough of where we're at, which isn't too
much. Oh yeah,
much.
that's perfect. In fact, that was on the show thing to start with.
Because I transition. So let's do this. So this is the current build of the game, which I don't think anybody else has seen except for Mike Azul, because guess what?
Oh man,
he has an analog pocket. So he's
early access.
Early access to this. If you go, you know, if you're in Discord, you can get early access.
Sure.
So Mike Azul has given some feedback on this. But what we have here is a version of the game where I wanted to show a few features off to this of what I was able to add. Now, first of all, there's the brick background. Brick background.
Right. Brick.
Made in my app.
Nice.
So that's the first thing, number one, using the tools you make. But the first thing I wanted to do is if you go here.
Stealthmon's seen it too. That's good.
Of course, yeah, baby. yeah.
Need a key.
So you need a key. So there's a trigger, and so that was just something I was thinking, like, we're gonna have doors and things that need to have happen when you have something. So if you go into your little inventory, I updated the skull. There was some debate. There was a drama.
There was beef on the Discord that I was like, why are these skulls have two freaking eyes, Adam?
So we got to update some of our other things. But in the game, the skull has one eye, so that was good. So when you pop into this, one thing that happens is when I get out of this, see, I wait for a second, and then it comes back up. So I had to figure out how to code a pause. So what was happening is I would go in here, and then I would get out of this menu, and then it would instantly come back up, and I couldn't escape the door, or it was really hard. So then the other thing I was playing with colors. And so one of the things, Ryan, and we're going to have this discussion today, is that this fills the screen really big, and there's a lot of texture, and it stays within the color values. I also worked with, can you go behind the lights?
Oh, sure.
Can you go behind the little buckets? And there's little things where you can go in front of things and behind things.
Yeah, exactly.
So some of the features that I added was, number one, if you look at him, I'm going to hit left, right, nothing happens. I'm just double tapping left, and right. If I jump up here, Robert Decker climbed the peak of Mount Pomari in 1932. So that's little Robert Decker. So you could see little pictures and little triggers on things.
Love it.
If you over here, we have our little mine that we're gonna get there. There's a key up at the top. So if that blows up, there's a little Game Boy I can pick up. I'm not gonna pick up the Game Boy. Okay. I made this thing where you can come up to it and you can actually like jump on top of it, or you push it.
Oh, okay.
So there's a little pushing. Yeah. There's some problems with it, because look at this. If I go up to it and I push it once, then I get away from it. I can, if I'm facing this way, I can I can use some.
It's like haunted
Jedi. You can kind of push it back and forth, but that's a glitch. But that's the only one. So what I wanted to show you is this door was another feature. Can you go in a door and out a door? So you go in there, you get the other side of the bar.
Okay.
So we can transition into different rooms.
Yep.
That was one thing. But see up here, there's this little vial. So the first thing is I wanted to see, how does dialogue work with that? So you grab it.
Okay.
You picked up the vial. Dash acquired.
Nice.
So double tap left or right, and you get dash. So now,
Oh, see,
so you
cool.
you get a little bit of a dash now. And so what I did is there's this little piece of paper that you can see up at the top there,
Mm-hmm.
and and this is the fun part of games is you try to like make it so that you can get to it. So if I try to jump to it, you almost basically get it, but you have to nail a dash to get to it. And I've tried this a couple times, and it's actually kind of a pain in the ass. So I even pissed myself off.
Oh, right. Okay.
And I actually could do it better.
Jump plus dash.
So,
Nice.
so you picked up a torrent page.
Okay.
The real skull is hidden in the rest of the page is unreadable.
Nice.
So the idea is that you would pick up a bunch of these pages. You go into your inventory. You picked up the page. You picked
Cool.
up the vial. And you get to get some of these other things. Yeah. Gotta unlock the double jump.
Yeah.
I agree. Like double jumps. And then here's one of the things that was a homage to Halo.
Oh,
You
man.
get the grenade
Adam
jump.
gets it like every time now. He must be like.
I haven't played
he's
this a
pro.
lot. It is not as easy to do that. But then I had to like also think about you got to go in and out of the door and it will respawn some of
Oh,
those
sure.
things so that
Yeah.
like you can do that again. And then there was a glitch. There's some other glitches I'm working with. Like, but you can pick up the Game Boy. And now you have a pistol
Yeah,
that we need to
alright,
get. So
cool.
so this is all the updates of the game, and we have our little AI Game Boy. I call him my little dummy. And if you look in the upper right hand corner, there's what? A number 1. That means there's one enemy in this level. And if this little guy can, hey, come on, buddy. You want to come over here? He's on a total
It's a
random thing.
random
He doesn't
thing.
care about me. He's an AI.
Boom,
He turns
got
into a
him.
little skull, so he's dead. That's where the
Nice.
original skull came in, is that you kill things.
Okay, I see.
The other thing I added too is that you can jump up, and then if you hold down, you can jump down.
Oh, nice.
So you can get up and down in levels, which I thought was important. And
Yeah.
finally, I have the key, right? So if you go
Okay.
here, you got the key. Watch what
Got
happens.
The key
Unlocks the
Oh,
door.
nice. Opens it up.
And
Cool.
Then, and then if you go in, you've won.
Nice. Oh,
So-
man.
So just this was a demo of all the game mechanics that we could use. And so part of it into what you said, Ryan, and then if I jump back into this thing, it just goes right back to the start
Yeah.
of the game. Double drop down. And thanks for be careful for that little
Totally.
double drop
Be
down
careful.
thing he did last time.
Design that for
And
us.
you restart the game. I did mention there's some heart values up there, and so as you get hit by an enemy, you will decrement on your hearts.
Can you die in this?
Not in this version, but yes, you can die.
Okay.
But the reason that I had done this was like I just wanted to like not die, and so if you get hit by this guy, he doesn't track you. He's more of an autonomous, just like
yeah, he just wanders
chilling around, kind of like dude. So
Does he have an area that he stays in, or could
no,
he go in
can
this
go
entire
the entire
like,
map.
place?
So if you
Interesting.
so
There
see
we
how he
go.
hits it,
Okay,
your hearts
yeah.
like start to get
Ugh,
hit down.
and it like shakes the screen a little.
Yeah, so you know that you actually get hit. So anyways, I just wanted to show off kind of where we were at.
Yeah.
He won't hit you if you're standing still. That's
Oh,
another
that's
little
right. That
thing
was
we-
that was like the programmer trick.
But I just wanted to kind of show that part off because I think it was good to like, what kind of mechanics can we take it? I feel like I'm almost to the point where that is as much as we could really
Sure.
like do. And so we have a lot of opportunity to work with that.
Yeah.
So now I feel like we've staged it up. Ryan is now taking on the design aspect of it because I was just dinking around trying to make some of that. And actually, I love what you've been able to create. So Ryan, take it away.
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, a big part of this is just realizing how to use the systems that we are using, right? And reusing tiles. Like, that's such a big part of this Game Boy development, right? Is you need to be able to have a bunch of cool, unique tiles. You need to have certain tiles that you reuse. And so I've been trying to like lean into that slightly. So my first attempt at a level was this one. And really what it is it's, a certain amount of tile sets for like the ground level. Like I think of those as almost like boards, right? And then there's kind of a rock tile, you know, or gravel almost, or concrete tile below that. And really like those are all the same, you know, the wood tiles are like 3 8x8 tiles, and the wood or the rock down at the bottom are just rotated and flipped in different ways too. So they're only one. So like in some ways I'm trying to kind of fill up a little bit of the area down below, because part of it was what I was thinking is you have this certain amount of space that is like height above you. And how are you getting around inside of this? And so that's why I was like, oh, right. Like you would want like certain interesting like levels to be jumping up and around as you're walking forward through the level, right? Like you have to jump up onto things and you're seeing stuff. And then part of it was also like, if this was going to be a Metroidvania in the sort of sense of the normal, like there would just be levels that you would be jumping up onto and climbing up and going up. And so this would be maybe, you know, the second level of the Skull Bob's Tavern or something like that.
So like a later part of the script is he would be like, yeah, I can get up here because now I've got the double jump.
Totally. And you couldn't get up there before, right? Because you only have the single jump. And how I made this is
Roby's jumping around.
Nice. I can't remember. I think Adam had, from what I can tell, is like a single jump was 8 pixels. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was 16.
You can adjust
pixels.
it, yeah.
So like my idea was like, oh, you know, you would have 8 or 16 pixels as your height jump at first, and then maybe you got to 24 pixels as your next level of jump. And then if you had the dash, then that would be like 24 pixels plus another 16 pixels of dash. And so that's how you would kind of space out everything,
great
right?
Thinking about
like
that.
So like you would be like, hey, you can go up 6 or 24 and you can go the max distance of this amount, and you would almost have that as like a block that you would move around to be like, where can they get and where can't they get, you know, in this kind of style version of it, right? Because what you would be jumping on in this version, I feel like, is not maybe on top of the jukebox there. Like that would just be a background element.
Thank you, H.E. Higley, for the.
Oh yeah,
I think it was you that
Higley like brought in, you know, last episode that like it would be cool to have a jukebox, and so I built one, which also is just cut in half, right? So it's only one half of that jukebox, and then it's mirrored on the other side to save the pixel sprites.
Just as a side note, and I'm not sure on this, is that I think rotating or flipping
does it use it?
Might use it. So I just wanted to say that. I'm not 100% sure, but I think there's some interestingness.
We'll have to see. So, but like the barrel is that same thing, right? It's flipped over on the other side and brought down. So anyway, we'll have to check that. But so in this version of what I was thinking is like you would only be jumping on the wood at the bottom here and the brick up here on these levels. You wouldn't necessarily be jumping on all of these background elements, which is kind of part of, you know, maybe you would jump on top of the bar and around, but like, you have 144 pixels tall and your guy's only 32. So you're going to need to get up into that top area somehow. And in this version, my idea was that it would be platforms that you would be jumping on.
Right. You would be, you wouldn't, that whole area would be really tough to get to. There would be nothing that you can do unless you had some other kind of thing.
Unless you had like a window there that he could jump on or something, right? Like you could add things into the background for sure.
How many unique tiles do you think you have in this scene, Ryan?
Well, it depends on whether those duplicated, you know, like
without
tiles.
flips, like just in like the way that you have it, unique in terms of like if you didn't rotate or flip anything.
Well, you could take Roby out, right? Okay. And nice, jukebox looks good.
Hell yeah, it does. Let's look at that jukebox. That looks amazing. I love it.
So again, this was a Dolly created. I was like, make me a jukebox, and it came up with an okay one, and I brought it into here. I've moved away a lot from creating it also in the third or the second step of going through Pixelfy. Yeah. Like for the most part, you can get it into here and it'll work fine in A-Sprite, and then I just have to mess with it. And so then it's being like, okay, I bet I can cut this in half and only have, you know, 24 pixels tall and then mirror it. So I would say, I mean, if you took Roby out of the entire thing, you could go into pixels. I don't know if you have pixeled on this.
Actually, I'm going to show you how to do it in A-Sprite. How to calculate how many pixels are on here.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, I was going to say if you wanted to turn off the layers of Roby, I have it in tiled.
Okay. So I wanted to show you how you do this in there. So let's make our little pop-up smaller for just a second. So down here in the layer palette, if you haven't figured this piece out, this might
Which
be really,
I haven't.
This might be helpful because I really like Sprite. So if you right-click on the layer, you can convert it to a tile map. Now you can only do this once, and it can do it on a layer. So if you make all of the stuff, you do this once, and you hit tile map, and then you create like a tile set, and you hit OK, and it puts all the tiles in this left-hand side, all the ones that you can use.
Okay.
So then once you're on a tile map layer, and you can tell it by the layer at the beginning, you can click on a tile, and then you can just like draw with those tiles, and like you can dump it into things. That was actually the fill, but you can also use it with this and like and pick different things. But the other thing is, and you can see it happening, is I hold control, and it's going to show you all of the unique tiles and how many numbers of them there are in there. So let me back out a little bit. And if you hold that on there, well, you may have to zoom in. You can see this is tile 2, 20. Go back.
And are these on the left here?
Yeah.
Every single tile?
That's every tile.
So you could look at those and be like, I have 37 or whatever.
Yeah, you could count those. There's probably an area that tells you how many unique tiles are. I think it's probably down here too. I'd have to look. But I know that when you click on it, you can start looking at like, okay, where are all these unique tiles? And you can kind of scroll around and say, like, if you're identifying a section, for instance, and let's say we go look at the bar, and because I was looking at this earlier, and if I on this layer, grab this guy, like 66, 66, 67, 68, 67. So you could see all your bottles.
Because I had
repeated.
bottles, right, are all repeated. So it's like the little shelf underneath it, right, is just the one edge. But see, it counts it because I see this edge, right, is 17. But then 19 is just a flipped version of that. So it counts.
It's counting in Sprite. That's why I said we got to figure out if it counts in the Game Boy section, because I think there are some ways that you would do that. But what I was going to say is, if you're using this in Sprite and you like finally you know what all your tiles are and you get those loaded in a thing and you convert the layer, what's really handy is then you can use this over here and you can just like paint on, like, I want some skulls in here.
Yeah.
Or if you're trying to like rapid prototype a level, then you have all your little pieces and parts over here. You can draw all your things really quick.
Totally.
And then you can also just grab, like, it doesn't do it based off of like pixels anymore. You can just copy and paste like chunks.
Yeah. Well, and I've been starting to do this in tiled because
all right, I have tiled up.
It's easier to, or I found it easier to, so I don't have as many layers. I'm just like, here is the tiled thing. Okay, so we look at the second version.
Is it in tiled?
Yep.
Okay, sweet.
Is this on the desktop?
Yep. It should be in your underscore video file.
Underscore?
I don't know. You put an underscore in front of it. It's right there. Video game.
Okay.
So tiled is another application.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see if this opens on a different computer or how it looks. If it does the thing. Okay, it does.
Okay. So here's my second version.
Ooh, I like the bricks. Ooh.
Of this one.
Looks great.
And in this version, like, we're less immediately like perpendicular to where you are, right?
It.
So we looked at some of those other games like Home Alone and things like that, and I was looking at types of those games, and we'll look at some screenshots and maybe we can look at some. And I was like, some of them are straight from the edge, right? It's like you're looking at it as if you were like completely sideways to the thing. And some of them are more like if you remember the game Castle Crashers, right? Where you have like a long sort of, 3/4 shot of the floor, and then you can move up and down in between. But like in games like Home Alone that we looked at, you just don't move. It just, you're on that one
piece of the plane. Yeah.
Like you're on one plane that you're on. And so there's stuff in the background and you just like walk along that plane. But in this sense, I was like, could you do it where you could jump on things of this to like get up here to the top? Because in this sense, this looks more like realistic to me.
Yeah, I like it. I love the arcade games.
Yeah,
That's
so
awesome.
got the arcade games in there, which are also like, this is just a duplicate of that, right? Which is a duplicate of that. This is a duplicate of that. That's why it has the buttons at the top. Like, because I was like,
that
I
was
could duplicate this
good.
onto this side, but then
Damn,
this one
Ryan
is
be
different,
thinking
right?
about optimization.
Exactly. So now I'm like, because for every moment that you have one of these that's duplicated, you get a Skull Bobs, right? Which is completely its own pixelated, and each one of these 8x8s is different. So anyway, so in this version, I was like, oh, maybe you do jump on these background elements or something, but you could also do it. Let me see. Let me open up.
So you open up another version of it. Okay.
So like, here's,
Oh, so it's more the platformer version.
yeah, like this is the platformer version of that same place, right? Like, but in this version, you're jumping on like actual platforms that you can like see are separate parts of this, right? As opposed to this one, where you're like, you would almost have to make these like hanging things or part. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, there's sort of different, like whichever visual style we choose, I think will dictate some of the how the platforming works.
So
to it.
I agree with you. So as I look at this, and sorry, I've just been like zoning out because it's awesome to see like pixel art come together, and I'm like envisioning
Right.
the game. So one of the first things is if you go up, you'd almost want him to get smaller and bigger, right?
Well, I mean, in an awesome version, this would be like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game or the X-Men game, right? Or Castle Crashers, where you can have some leeway where you're like, I'm here, or I'm here, right?
Yeah,
and when
yeah,
you're in
yeah.
the background, you're interacting and you're jumping on the background elements. And when you're in here, you're talking at the bar, right? And when you're here, you're checking out like the big barrel that's in like the foreground part of this, right? Because what's neat about this angle is I could also have something that's like big right here that I'm walking in front of, or like there could be a table
I could
that
see
would be
that.
this big with have one giant beer bottle on it. Because that's in the foreground, and you're walking
yeah.
behind it, and so in that sense, you could use up some of your pixel like 8x8s on that big thing in the foreground, and you would just repeat that a bunch.
So number one, I love where you're headed with this, and the thing that I'm just like, is the constraints on some of the Game Boy to like go up and down like in a Castle Crashers, and so. Like I could make it. I can even understand how you could jump up on this, and you can almost make it to where you like jump up on these levels. There's different modes. You'd almost have to make it like an RPG mode. So you're running around. Now I'm trying to think how you would jump.
See, well, okay, so this is already leading into my second part of this,
right.
which is like, what I don't want to do is for our very first game that we ever make, try to make something that like no one else has ever done before, because that is just like a way to be frustrated and failing, right? For your very first project with that you're trying to like nail just something that is sort of fun, right?
Battletoads did this.
Well, and so that's what I want to do. Like, and we talked about like having some, showing off some games and looking at some games, and I have some Game Boy screenshots and games to look at that I want to look at.
Let's do that.
Because what I would rather do is like pick one genre and be like, we're going to emulate it and put our own little like spin on it of story or something, right?
Sure.
And
sure, no, that's
so
good.
if that's a Home Alone game where, we'll look at Home Alone and like you're in an area and you're jumping up against things and they're popping out of drawers and you're finding them and collecting them and then moving on, and all the characters, you're just shooting them and they pause and then you can run by them. Like, I think we should choose that and just be like, we're going forward with that type of game, or a Metroid or Castlevania style game that is more like this one, right? Where you're like, okay, they're sections that you're jumping up onto and there are enemies inside of those sections and you're jumping up and you're doing around it? Or is it more like this one where you're jumping around and finding things and things, when I hit up against this arcade, a quarter pops out and I get the quarter and I put it into my inventory.
I like the more realistic, to be honest. And so this is a thing that I didn't have a chance to touch base with you on, because if you looked at the demo that we had, it fills the screen. It feels like you're in that world. It almost feels like, I want to say realistic, but it has more of that. You're not platforming up onto something, but you can kind of see it. Like, you're like, oh, I didn't realize you could jump up this little area and pop out this little this like door right here. Like, I like that feel. This gives me that vibe more than the other version. The only thing that I'm concerned about is like how you're able to go up and down on that floor in a way that's.
And I would say that I had, so let's see if I do Roby.
Right. And Roby's dropped the E because he's cool.
Because he's cool. So let's say he was like here instead. And why? So Adam, tell me this. In Tile, why does it bring the grid with me?
I
like,
have no idea.
That kills me, because then when I leave it here, right, and you're like, oh well, why does it?
Because each level wants to have you stay within a grid, because maybe your character, I have no idea.
But I want to be able to like move him around see, like you can make it so that it pops to 8 and 8 and 8, right? Like it only moves to that, but it still moves the grid.
There's probably
afterwards.
some feature where you could lock the grid.
So like, let's say he was here.
Yeah.
Like, which is one sort of 8x8 grid up. Do you think that would be enough to where if he was just jumping on these pool tables or on this bar or on this background,
I think
that you would be like, be like, I would buy it, right? But then there's a lot of down here. But what I think you would do is you would take like these pool tables, right? And you would say like, okay, I need a pool table, but I need a bigger version of the pool table that would be, like a large version.
I'm learning how to use Tiled again by watching you, by the way. It's been a minute.
And I mean, really, I'm not even doing anything super special with this, but what you would do then is you would make a bigger version of this.
Yeah,
right?
No, I get you.
And so then it would look like you was in the foreground, and you would fill up this foreground with people and stuff like that, right?
Nail it.
And then those are things that you can interact with. Now, one of the things that I was thinking is right now and in Home Alone and all of those games, it's sort of you just run into the thing and it triggers it.
Yeah.
Like most games, when you're sort of pecking around and you're like, oh, what can I interact with? What can I touch on? Like I need an interact button, right?
Yep.
And so
you can do that.
When I walk over by the arcade game, it doesn't just trigger it. I got to be like, they said something about the arcade game and now I got to do it. Okay. So if that's
100%
cool,
can happen.
Okay.
Yep.
So I feel like, there's going to be some technical things about this too. Like, things that I need to know about this, right? Because look over here, the edge of this bar, this is clear, right? Okay. And so this 8x8 and this 8x8 and this one and that one are all the exact same. But when I put a brick tile behind it, it will do it just like in Photoshop, right? If I put this and then I put a brick background behind it, it's now added brick behind it.
Yeah.
But this 8x8 is now no longer the same as this 8x8 and this 8x8 and
nope, they're different.
Like they're different, right? Than as if this was just on a white background. And so what I sort of need to know is like, should I be building everything that it goes up to right the edge so that we can keep everything an exact unique 8x8? Because once we start layering things behind it, this is going to all be unique then, right?
You're hitting on something. Absolutely. You got to think that way.
Yeah.
It's
same with this, right?
Yep.
Is like now because it's not on because this one is fine.
Yep.
This one not fine, unique. right?
This is where we're going to push the envelope.
Yeah.
You're going to have to figure out how many times can you do that enough in every. So it resets every little world you do.
Yeah.
You just got to figure out what's the where do you want to spend those extra pixels?
Yeah, like where do I want to spend my uniqueness, right? So this is where I sort of need you or you need to show me how. Is this way too many unique tiles? Is this half as many unique tiles as we need? Is this like acceptable amount? Is this way too many?
Is
this
that's a
not
great
enough?
question.
Like,
so
that kind of
so
stuff.
Export this as a PNG to my desktop.
I mean, it should be the exact same one that's the normal PNG that's in there.
Okay, you already have a PNG?
Yeah.
So this is what we could do is we can test it out.
And so that was my sort of thinking is like, we'll look at some of the games because I was looking at games and it feels like what I don't want to do is, like I said before, try to reinvent the wheel on our first go around. So I kind of want to pick one and be like, what game are we evoking the feeling of?
But like, I kind of like the idea that we're not reinventing the wheel, but we're putting our own spin on it because it's not a Metroid.
No,
but it's like it's a cross between a Metroid, a Castlevania, like an RPG, and almost like a Resident Evil.
See, my problem is you don't know. Like, our limited amount of game design knowledge is going to make that a cross between these three completely different genres is going to fail.
Well, no,
right?
not necessarily.
Because,
okay.
So then maybe show me someone who did that type of game, because I imagine there are smart game developers out there, and someone has made a game.
We're amazing, Ryan.
We're not unique snowflakes.
Oh, yes, we are. We're the biggest snowflakes in the world.
Right. Because somebody has made that game though, and we need to look at it and learn their lessons for our very first game.
I feel like this is the cool part of what we do.
It's gonna be a shitty game then. So realize that you're gonna make a shitty
look at this
thing.
Guy.
Because that's what happens. Because we don't know all of the lessons that we would learn by making a Metroidvania or making a something our first time. And I feel like you're gonna be like, oh man, we just tried this, and a bunch of people who have already tried that have went, yeah, there's a reason.
Well,
that
and I
not
guess
like
what we're
that.
trying to say is like what I'm saying is it has more of the exploration of an RPG and finding things. So that's what that part of it is, the RPG. It's about talking to people and finding things.
Yeah.
That's the Metroid part of being able to go through a bunch of these different worlds and like jump around and have some of these enemy parts. And then it's like the Resident Evil side that it's like puzzles. Like, I need to find the key that goes to this fountain. Like, I don't think it's anything groundbreaking or shattering.
Sure.
It's just saying that what happened before is when Game Boy games were made, it was way more complex to make it. And they've just released the latest version of GB Studio that's added some additional features. It's made it easier. So people are making games right this second that were almost impossible to make before because they didn't have this tool set in front of them.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm getting at is I think we actually do have this opportunity to do something a little bit more unique because of that.
The only thing that I would say against that is that like there are people who know how to make those and the pitfalls that they're not going to fall in by steam forward and thinking that we're going to like make something the unique snowflake. And so I'm fine with like, what if we chose like one kind of game or something to emulate and then we added little bits to it? Like I'm fine with that. Like, but what I don't want to do is be like, oh, it's going to take half a Metroidvania game and a quarter of a home. Oh, nice. His zombie friend is there.
He's crawling up walls and stuff because I put him in the wrong
Spider-Man.
I put him in the wrong type of game. That's why that's happening. So first of all, the fact that it's even working right now tells me it's under the tile.
It's under the tile amount, so that's good.
One of the first things, if you're wondering what just happened, I agree, Michael. Let's go full. Because here's the thing. you gotta like push the envelope and try something different. And like,
I just feel like games are so complex. Even simple Game Boy games are like the interaction that have it to make it fun.
as the technical lead, I'm overwriting that piece. You design the sweetness of it, and I'll make sure the technical.
Okay, all right.
Because honestly, I'm convinced at this point that what we had in the demo, you put on repeat in some other areas. Now, first of all, look at this. This is like, hey, Roby, what's going on, boy? Like that looks sweet. That window.
There we go.
2 snowflakes start a snowball. Because if we don't push ourselves, Ryan, we just be okay. Here's something I was thinking. The grenade jump thing, it's stupid. And it's like something we like. But I've been looking at a crap ton of games and no one's trying stuff like that.
Sure.
Like, I think we could have just enough uniqueness to this that we just try something a little bit creative and different. We have the tool set with what we have with the demo right now. Mm-hmm. If you said that is your toolbox, now just layer a bunch of different layers over that and like a whole bunch of different levels, we can make a really like tell a good story with that.
But I think like part of it too is just like how even the level is laid out, right? Like
right.
Home Alone.
I agree
Home
with
Alone is laid out so much differently than a Metroidvania. No, but like, it's almost like Home Alone had an interior, right? And we'll look at this when we see screenshots of it.
Let's do this. So let's put him on that floor just to get that feeling of what you're looking like. So number one, you'd go to your bricks, and like. Let's see here. You want him on the same level he's standing now or higher? Or
one higher than he is now.
Okay, so we're just going to put a... Oops, that doesn't matter that way. Let's keep going this way. Anything below this won't matter. One thing I was going to say is leaving a little bit underneath is going to be good. And the reason why is I think we want to put the HUD underneath.
At the bottom?
Yeah, and so like if you can leave like the bottom layer or even the bottom 2, and that's where the HUD lays, man, I think you're in the right place.
Okay.
So anything that we do going forward, we probably move the HUD down there. You can make the whole bottom layer just like a color.
So the bad thing with that is like that takes away all your 3D elements of this. If you're talking about just it being like an overlay.
If it's not like it could just overlay on top of it and you can still have the 3. God, I can't draw a straight line here, bro.
I found that to be tough.
Yeah. And this particular tool doesn't have I don't think it has a draw, but maybe
like
it
hold
does.
shift, because you hold shift when you do it. Does it like stay on the same?
Shift like deletes.
Oh, then no.
wait, let me see. Oh no, it does. Oh no.
No.
It does. It does actually work. Good call. Okay, so now we get to get a version of him standing on that. So I'm compiling.
You should put it. I was gonna say you should add like the top of the arcade cabinet and things like that for him to jump on.
Oh, we could totally do that. But let's just even see like, is that the right level? Is he too high now?
I mean, like, so let's say he could then jump onto the stool and jump onto the top of the bar.
All right, so we're going to use a different tile type, and this is going to be the one where he can jump up and through. So, like, stools. He's not going to look like because the stool's at the bottom of the pixel. So you'll see in just a second what I mean by that. Let's see here. So you're saying, like, on these stools, right?
Yeah.
So not in between. And then on top of the barrels, because I like that you used, where did those barrels come from? Did I make them?
No, I made it when I was just for the very first one that we did, where I did a bunch of like, here's the brick looks like, here's the, like all of those background elements.
Oh, I thought I made them. I thought I was amazing.
No.
You're like, no.
That makes sense.
You're like,
you're not.
You're not amazing. I'm the amazing one here. All right, so
let's get it straight.
Like, I am Ryan freaking Higley, boy. I know how this goes.
Recognize.
All right, here we go.
Okay.
So he's going to be able to, well, let's see if he has a high enough jump is going to be the next question.
Yeah, does he have 8? Is he 8 or 16? 16. All right.
Yeah, boy. Roby's getting on the stuff. That looks good. So
Right?
look at this though. When he jumps on this, he's like a little bit of a pixel above.
Oh, sure.
Because it only does it on the pixel. It can't do a half or on the tile. So
Okay.
things to think about.
Totally.
That looks good. I don't know. That looks good.
Like, yeah. I mean, that looks weird because you're like, oh, those look in the background, but then you can walk on them. Anyway.
I'm on the bar.
And how about the jump? Like, can he say he earned a double jump?
Yeah.
Like where he could jump higher than, like, you know, he goes from 16 to 32 or whatever.
Uh-huh.
Can he, if you barely push up the up, can he half jump to 16 and then like higher up jump to 32?
Well, you can do it to where it's like a double jump where you have to jump a second time in the air.
Yeah, but I was like, could he do it just where it, because like what I was thinking is like maybe his double jump is the spin and his normal jump is just like a little Mario jump.
Yeah, like right now, like when I barely tap it,
Yeah,
he just kind of goes a little bit. But
barely. But could those be different sprites? I guess that's like for.
Oh, I see what
then.
you're saying. Yeah. You can totally work on that.
Yeah, so you know, in this scene, it feels like
Still
he could be
looks like
running around.
ice
Like
skating.
imagine people sitting on the bar stools and people in the front, right? Like little animations of them. That's what I'm sort of thinking. And lots of different places where you would want to go up and interact with stuff, like things in the background. And so that's why I kept being like, man, we should try to reuse as many tiles as we possibly can
Still
because
looks
of storyline. Because of the storyline, you need to interact with lots of things to be able to get it, right? Like talk to people and check out the picture in the background. And yeah, it's like the other Roby is just like a zombie in the background.
I was trying to adjust the animation speed because one of the comments was that he looked like he was ice skating. And so what I'm adding is character speed animation, and there's basically how quickly that little sprite runs. So let's see if this works. This should be a quick fix. Okay, a little bit better.
Yeah.
Yeah, he actually looks like he's running now on there.
And this kind of almost looks like, you know, he's front flipping onto the top of the bar, right? Like, so it's
badass.
not
Woohoo.
super realistic.
So we can
But-
we could add so that would be a thing, like that little circle jump or whatever could be the double jump, whereas like a normal jump would just be him like
Yeah, exactly. So, and then he has to earn his double jump,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
By
yeah.
going around and looking at things and starting the right thing, and that gives him the coffee that allows him to do the double jump, right? Or whatever.
Am I dead?
It's weird.
Am I here?
What?
Yo,
What is
yo.
the purpose? What is the purpose of life?
Yeah. Do the Roby. Yeah. All right. No, I like what this looks like, and I actually like the floor like that. I didn't even think about it that way. What I think would be a good thing to kind of talk about then is did you have any other like sprites or icons or things that we wanted to talk about with this?
No, it's more like showing off other games, I guess, at this point. But
Okay.
this is, and it's funny because between this and the other version, like it's mostly the same sprites, except for the floor is slightly different. You know, so it's the same.
And the background brick. So one of the things that about the other sprite that I think, I don't know if we still have it up. Let's open that last recent one. So when you look at this one, do you want to load the following files as an animation? Okay, sure. Is this one? It feels 1980s, 90s Game Boy
Sure.
because it's so platformer. And what I'm pushing for is, I loved 1980s and 90s. I want to take it a step up, one more step. And I think that it's not going to be so earth-shattering that we're going to fall into all these holes. What I think it's going to do is it just gives us a little bit of extra, because you're just using graphics to do it. And one of the reasons that they did this before, and maybe my technical side is understanding this, is that as I've watched how old Game Boy games were made, what they were doing was they didn't have a sweet pixel editor. They didn't have somebody that went and like put the sprites together all perfectly like that. They did have certain sprite sheets that they would use, but what they would do is they would use code to basically say, hey, this pixel should be this color and this pixel should be this color. And so you're coding this entire game, all of it in code. And so what GB Studio is doing is giving us this additional ability to like put the graphics on it while still using some underlying code. And so while it may be limiting in certain areas, it's absolutely blowing it out of the water in others, because you wouldn't have been able to do this back in the day. You had to know like, oh man, I'm going to adjust that. All right, let me go figure out the hexadecimal or some weird, like, what was it? It was binary essentially. And you would write out a binary to swap a pixel at a specific type. So by the time you got like a cool Roby looking character or a little Mario, it was because you did it in a coded application in assembly or C. And so what we're able to do is we still get to use the benefit of that stuff.
Thanks for hanging out.
Hell yeah. Thanks for coming out. And hopefully you're going to get to play some of this game. And if you had any suggestions, I don't know if you're still there. Give us a tile or a thing that you would see in Skull Bobs, and we'll try to make it next time. We're looking for the feedback from the chat here. So, he likes the progress of how we're going. Yeah, we're grinding through. So what I guess I was getting at is that I don't know if you can believe my confidence that we got where we're headed with
I
this.
feel like it is somewhat misplaced confidence. Like you have never created a game before.
Isn't that the necessity of innovation? Like, because we're so ignorant of it, we don't know what the limitations are, and so we get to do cool things that we may not have been able to do. And so maybe in my thought on this is, you take like a world, and I'm not going to say like the graphic that I did was like pretty full on. You have some doors that you can get into some rooms. Like if you just take that concept, and maybe this is a good time for me to pivot to like one of these other areas that I was talking about before was, do I even have it up? I do. So I don't know if I can turn dark mode off, but I like dark mode. Maybe we'll leave dark mode on. Believe in your dreams. Yeah. If you took the tavern as is, either the one that you just created, which I think we would take, versus, the one I kind of like shoved together, imagine that tavern scene is in this bucket now. You can run back and forth. You can have pool tables. You have foreground elements, and you have things that you explore in there. And from that tavern, and think about everything we have. You can pick up items. You can fight little enemies. And you can basically have triggers that you can activate by running onto it and like hitting the activate button. And like, so there could be a person that says something. Mm-hmm. That is it. That's all we need to make the mechanics of the game that you're worried about. Now it's just like, make a sweet tavern graphic, make a sweet lobby, make a sweet kitchen, make all of these different pieces of the world. And like, okay, what are we going to have to interact with? What is the item that you pick up out of this world? Mm-hmm. What is the dialogue that you're going to find? And now what we're doing is we're going through each one of these areas and we're saying, all right, I think like it would be sweet if we found the key in the sewer. And then if you get the key in the sewer, that's what actually gets you out into the secret room that's way up in this closet. And so now we're not worried about the mechanics anymore. All we're worried is about how do you put that sweet graphics in every one of these places. And all we're thinking about is, we got the mechanics. When do you get the double jump? Or when do you get the little jumpy thing to the side, the little dash jump? And we're just like plotting it out in a menu like this. And the game is already built. What we just did is we showed it all in a demo, shoved into one little piece. And the fun part is unlocking the story and the little pieces of dialogue. That's all in the game, right?
Yeah, it's. I guess it's that part that I feel like is going to be harder to make it. To make something that people would actually want to play and be fun, and not just a thing that is fun because we made it, right?
I know, but so I don't know, chat, help us out here. We got some people that believe in us. We're telling the story of Skull Bobs, and I think that is really the north that I've been going with, is that we're not here to make like the best next Mario, or we're not making the next Metroid, but we have some of those fun features. You get to kill some things, you get to shoot those things. But I think one of the things that I've appreciated about games in certain cases is the storyline or the ways that you navigate this. So I'm just going to take you through a fictional story I'm going to make up on the spot. Here's part of it I didn't. First cutscene, Skull Bob's. He's at the cemetery. He's just finished a funeral for Roby, or for his Robert Decker. You know, I imagine like a tombstone. He's like there, he's sitting there, rain's hitting him on his head, and it's just like a sweet Roby thing. So then he starts out in the front entrance, and that's like your training level of the game, and he has to go put his coat down. He's just walking around this entrance. He goes to a couple pictures, and it was like Robert Decker climbed Mount Pimari and like open the bar and this, and like just little dialogues that crop up or something like that. And then like he goes to the door and it's like, sigh. I'm gonna miss walking through this door with Grandpa. And then he walks into the lobby of the thing, and then in the lobby, there's some patron in there, and he's like, I'm really sorry to hear about da da da.
Sure.
He does the things, and so you're kind of like getting to tell the story, and it's not us like dialoguing or what do you call it, monologuing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you don't have to talk to that guy. But you do, because you want to learn a little bit more. You go over here, and then he gets to the tavern, and based off how this works, and this is how I know how the game's, like, let's say you trigger one thing, you talk to the guy. Once you talk to the guy once, you can increment a value somewhere that says, hey, you talked to that guy. So now that you talk to the guy, you should go and make sure that you like unlock this door over here. So until you've talked to the guy, you might just be running around like, what the hell am I supposed to do? Have I done everything? And you go talk to the guy and you're like, yeah, it was really interesting that one time when Robert Decker was able to do that thing in the garden or the patio. And so that's why it's like, oh, now the patio door is unlocked or something. So we're basically just like telling the story, and you're going to these sections. So all these sections are unlocked until you do one trigger. You don't have just instant access to it. And then as you go through each section and each piece, you're finding a little bit more. And maybe like in the garden is where you find some like cool little thing that you have where you get the dash, because you instead of you got a vial, but it's some sort of like vial that Robert Decker was building because of the skull, and now the skull gives you
something.
It reminds me of kind of like an Evil Dead, not Evil Dead, but Resident Evil, because in Resident Evil you were like, oh, you found the little scroll and it looks like it's circular, and then somewhere else in the game you would saw like, hey, there's a circular input over here on the fountain. And so it's like exploring the world, and a lot of it is we're writing this humongous script about all the experiences and the different things that you can kind of get through. And the fun thing is you want to get to this like story, like, oh, where's the skull? The little page says the real skull is unreadable. And so you're like, damn it, where's that skull? And like you go to the next one, and somehow how the unlocking works is maybe in the museum you find something under, like you knock something over, and then you're like, the next page is like, the skull was something that really created something that was special.
Right.
I don't know. I'm really selling you here, but that's kind of like an example of what I was thinking, is that all these spaces get unlocked and you're getting little things, and every so often you get one of the rooms where you get a power up or you get something to do. And every one of them has like that, you can jump up to something, you can jump over to something, or hey, there's a little sewer thing and you're like hitting it and you're like, you can't get into there yet, or you know.
So like, I mean, aren't there games like that? Like there are probably games like that we could sort
not
of
as badass
look
as
at.
the Skull Boss game we're about to make.
Of
But that's what I was gonna say, is that I think the games that are like that are RPGs. That's like a Zelda game. You're going on a mission and you're going, but the difference with Zelda, it's RPG. So you're going up and down, or at least in the ones that are in Nintendo.
Sure.
In this one, we're just saying we're doing in a platformer style, but it's still exploring a world. And now we can have the hierarchy of going up and down in that world.
And I was trying to think, like, if this was me trying to do it, I would be like, what if we did the first 3 rooms and see if that was fun, right? Like is it fun to jump around and look at that, and like we know we're gonna need lots of dialogue boxes, if I had to guess, right? Or like cuts, like I was looking at there was a game that I was looking at where when you go and talk to someone, you know, there's a guy drinking at the bar, and when you go and click on him, then it flicks over to the screen of like a picture of his head with the words coming down like at the side, right? And so you'd be like, okay, how many of those do we get per scene or whatever?
As many as you want, because you could go a shite ton of those different levels to be able to do that. And like, I think all of that's the easy stuff. So one of the things about puzzles, and that's why I was trying to make this, is that maybe there's this like, this gives a little bit of randomness to the level. So let's say I can get the bucket to where it doesn't mess up, where like once you touch it, you can be like across the level. So imagine this bucket was sitting over here, and let's see if I can even push it right now. For some reason I can't, for whatever.
Because the mine is in the way.
Oh yeah, you're probably right actually. I could have taken something out there we go. It was the wrong button. So let's say it was like way over here, and you found it, and you had to go all the way on the other side of the thing, and like it was needed so that you can go over here so you could jump on it to like get to this little thing you didn't know you needed to do.
Right.
Like it's a little bit of puzzles, a little bit of platforming, and a little bit of like shooting things. Like I was imagining that in certain levels you might just pick up the gun just like this, where you'd be like, sweet, I found a gun in this level. And then like you're doing this part and you like kill this little enemy. And then when you go to the next level, you might not ever, like, you don't need the gun. Like the gun drops off or something. You're just like, yeah, you used all the weapons on that. Now you're back to like core Roby running around. There was an idea, and I think we could do this, where you could just like hit the start button and you can like pick up the gun in certain scenarios, and it could be part of the puzzle making.
Oh, right. Sure. Like it would be in your inventory or something.
Yeah. So it's not the flashbang Halo shooty shoot kind of game we're talking about. I think if we did that, we'd blow through it so fast if it was just a killing game. Because I think my first demo showed that you get through a level super fast like that.
Right.
But if you get to explore this level, and maybe you were jumping up here and you pass one of these lights and you're just like, what the hell? What do you do with this level? You could even be stepping on a light, but then like maybe you were at this light randomly, I'm just making this up, and you hit the up button. And then it's like, oh, you found something in the light. You have all these random lights that you would never think there was something in it. And some of it's like, what do I gotta find in this damn level to find it? And so some of the worlds, like this one, a lot of people hadn't found this one yet, is you have to jump and hit up to get like a clue.
Right.
And then I think the cool part is that, let's say this door, and I can make this easily happen. Like you would never be able to get this door. It could be like, have you figured out, how the code for the door?
Right.
And really the code for the door is like, you don't need to punch in like a number, but when you jumped into here, or it could be punching in a number, it'd be Robert Deckard, 1932. You're
Sure.
like, oh shoot, there's the number.
Right.
And then you run over there and you do the thing. I don't know.
Totally.
That's my pitch on this thing, is I think that there's like a really fun game in telling the story. And I think our whole point of doing that initially was we got a story and we got some cool things we can tell. And you can still have some fun battles and things that you do.
I wonder if like, do we need to build out more of like what we're thinking? Because I guess in a Metroidvania type game, you would be coming back and like getting to new places and doing things like that. Did you picture that as part of it? Is like, like now I have the cricket bat. And so in that one laboratory level, now I can smash open the something and do that.
Yeah, because I think what you could do, and maybe this is what we need to do, is we need to go into the game physics, because not physics, but capabilities. And maybe because I've been in it so much, I'm like understanding like what would happen. So this picture, let's take that for example. Right now, how I have it set up is that if you hit up on the joypad, it just says this dialogue. And then, but if you don't hit up, like do this. And so there's nothing that it does. It just does nothing if you hit up. You could make it to where it says, and I'd have to add an event to make this happen. So there's all these events that you can happen. You could say like, I'm going to use this one called a switch. So I'm going to put a switch event in there. So basically we would say, hey, there's this variable out there that we have set up. And I'm just going to make a random one over here. I'll say variable 11. And even just to be fun with it, I'll just say like picture. Call it the picture. I'll even call it Robert picture. Okay. Bob picture. Got to be a Bob picture. So there's the Bob picture. So we could say, what are the options that you would have when you hit the Bob picture? So in this case, let's just make it 3. So I'm going to say, here are the 3 options that you have. So there's going to be a thing that you can say, hey, Bob picture by default is 1. And I'm going to make sure you're tracking me here at this point. So if you're, so imagine that something like by interacting with the guy in the lobby is like you start the game, you're at 1, value of 1 for Bob picture.
The Bob picture says, he climbed Mount Pomare.
He climbed Mount Pomare. So that's the first value here, right? Yeah, there is totally clues coming from the jukebox. I'll tell you that one. That was I forced Ryan to make the damn jukebox. I'll tell you that. So and this is, you're 100% right, H.E. Igley. This is exactly what I'm getting at. Is that first of all, if you hit up on the joypad, and I'd have to do some other coding. I'm kind of getting this on the fly here, but basically, if you hit on the joypad, you would have this switch event, and I'm going to go ahead and put it in here. That could happen. So the switch event is going to say, if the value is 1, which its default set to 1, it will always say this: Robert Decker climbed the peak of Mount Pomare.
Okay.
So you go to somewhere else, you talk to a guy, and you say, hey, you know what? Remember when Bob climbed Mount Pomare? Man, that was crazy. And then instead of it now just saying, like, when you go to that same picture again, because you talk to the guy, it says, hey, the value of Bob picture is now 2.
Okay.
So next time you go to Bob picture and you hit up and you jump on it, it's like you turn the picture around. And on the back of the picture, It says this.
Yeah.
And then you could say, you do something else in the game, and you get that Bob picture up, and now it's triggering, say, value 3 again. Mm-hmm. And now whatever that third thing is, that you throw the picture in the fire, and outside comes like a strand of like something or something, that you get. Now you picked something up.
Sure.
So you're basically taking one object, one trigger, and you're saying, here are 3 different things that can happen in it. And those values could have been triggered all throughout the game and wherever you're going. So you have these super dynamic worlds where you're running around and it's always going to say that first value. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I don't know if any of that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. Like, because that's how you would make things. Because what you wouldn't want is the same picture to do the same thing every single time,
right?
Because you would never go back to it, right?
Right.
You would look at it the first time, and you would never need to go and check it the second time. After you've done something else. I feel like that's where you're sort of leading people through the story a little bit, but part of that is like you need to always be pushing people towards giving them hints towards where to go and look.
Right. And I think that's
you need tons of little like clues.
I'm going to be honest, is that part of me is like, I think I've extended it to like the level of like technical expertise that I can do with this version of a game. And the fun part of it is building the whole game and the story. Mm-hmm. What did we always say? It's like, it's that 15 seconds of fun that makes a story, and you put that on repeat. Like the thing is like, find the clue, find the thing, do the stuff. Visual clues. There could be other things that happen where like, if you did this switch, it's not just a dialogue that could happen. You could also say like, okay, when the value is 1, yes, you hit the display box when you do that, but also like you could have it tweak the picture or do some other like little.
It needs to change the sprite, right?
Yeah.
Like it needs to show like, oh, there's a little piece of something hanging out of the bottom of it that you notice now.
Or the sprite is like a couple. Yeah, there's so many things you could absolutely do with that, and like that's where it's infinite. Is that it's really into this platform of how. The way I'm trying to think about it is like you have a Lego box of things, and when you say like copy another, it's like you're saying, hey, there's that person that made the cool Lego car. Let's make that exact same Lego car with just a different color set. What I'm saying is that the Legos are out there and everyone can put them together any which way. It's a canvas at this point. I would rather make it super creative, and we can do little fun things like this that I just don't see the constraint. I think there's a lot of creativity that we can put into this.
Yeah, and the part that always scares me about it is like how many different unique stuff can I put into there before it says, oh, that's too, because like you'd have to have different versions of each pixel, right? That you're doing things.
Well, yes, you're right on that.
You'd have to have all the characters and all the things that you're going to interact with and all of that kind of stuff if that's the type of game that you're making.
So vertical slice, and this is maybe even too much of a vertical slice. This would be stage 1.
Right.
Like I would imagine 3 stages like this. And now I already know based off the research that you can do this probably 5 times and you would still be within the scope of like size and everything for a game, as long as we kept within our little parts.
Sure.
And then what we do is we just say, well, there's 192 unique sprites or unique tiles that you can have in any one of these worlds. And the biggest one is the tavern. And we nailed that. Anything else is smaller than the tavern that we go forward. So I was like, let's make that the biggest. And just by serendipity, when I made that demo, guess how many unique tiles were in that? 192. Like I like it was this. So what happened is I ran the game, and then the build code said, hey, you have too many tiles in there. And you have X amount of tiles over that. And it used to be like, you have 800 tiles and you can only have 192.
Right.
And it was like, you have 194 tiles. And I was like, holy crap.
Dang it.
And so I found one area where I was like, oh, I actually had the box like off to the side by 1 pixel. I moved it in and it was like right perfect.
Nice.
And so my point is, if we went into your earlier point, maybe we don't go to this scale. I wanted to like think like what could be in something, like what were the opportunities. And so I really like sat down and did this. And I feel like I should show some of that white work or the whiteboard work.
Totally.
We got a pre-roll for, we may have had an ad that was playing. So I'm going to go over to this. So one of the things that I think is helping me is literally putting on whiteboards and starting to think things through. And like this was a nice virtual way of it, but let me show you how I started it.
Okay. This is an update from the last whiteboard version we did. Do I need to change a camera angle?
Yeah, you're gonna have to push this.
Cameras?
Nope, it's this one right here. Sorry, it's not easy for. I made it way too complex. But you can do this. You can adjust this.
Okay.
Easy.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because we had it pointed at Master Chief there. Zoom out a little.
Going the wrong way. Got to go the opposite way. You got to go to the side.
Hold on. I can't go this way?
No.
Is it going to like run into itself?
You can't go all the way around.
Oh, it's not like a full. Okay, we'll do the full 360 here. Nice.
All right, we got it.
There we go. Perfect.
Right. I mean, so I didn't just like put those different pieces on there. I was like, okay, I'm going to start thinking about what it's going to take. And I know it probably is hard to hear me right now, but this is probably iteration 4 or 5. So like having the bar and thinking that, all right, what would be things in a typical bar?
Mm-hmm.
You'd probably have a balcony. And here, let me do this for you so you can see little Ryan in there too.
Oh, nice.
There we go. So you have the bar as the main core piece. Like I thought what would be interesting is that bars have like usually a little side room that you do some sort of like lounging in.
Sure.
Or you're gonna, it's an older bar, so maybe it's like the smoke room where people like would have their cigars or like the little side space. It has some crazy history to it, so you gotta have a museum in there, right?
Yep.
So where would you go to the restroom or do something? You would have that bathroom that would probably come off the bar. You said you wanted a bedroom, so I added the bedroom in there. And I was like, you're probably in this kind of space not going to have a lot of bathrooms. So the bedroom and the bathroom have to connect, and you can get to the bedroom off of the bar. And if this was like some other seedy club in the past, you'd also have a bedroom in
sure,
there.
right,
So
that
we're
makes
always working
sense.
in that kind of bedroom, and you'd have a cool little closet that you can check some things out.
Right.
So I like the idea that the bedroom was somehow connected to this cool little garden out here, but also you have to go through the back alley to get to some like little patio and get to the garden.
Is that like you're thinking doors? Like you would be going in and out of doors?
So
or is it like you're going... Are you like moving? How much do you think you're sort of moving around inside of these? Are you mostly staying on the floor level and sort of walking from one entrance on the left to the other exits on the right?
So if you imagine how we had the bar where there was like little Roby and he could jump up between these different levels here, like every one of these rooms might have like, not necessarily all the way across the room, but like these little sections, like in the garden itself. Let's say there was a garden. You might have like a planter that's right here.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you'd have some like little like plants or something coming out of the garden. But maybe over here there was like something that was hanging down from like something that was a planter.
Yeah.
And then you end up having like every world has some weird little platformy thing about it.
Okay.
Where you can jump up on it. Every one of these rooms is like repeat of the bar where you're like jumping up into the different parts.
Yeah.
But you're now doing it in all these different spaces. So the bathroom, you jump on the toilet, you jump on the sink, you jump on the thing, and you can get to the very top.
Yeah, Heather was saying it's hard to hear you back there. I can hear you because I think I can hear you just from like in between. But
I have my little mic that I also have. I need to get that going. I'll do that next time.
Yeah, so because this reminds me of Home Alone, right? So the Home Alone game that we looked at the last time that we were doing this was like a Game Boy game, and you were inside of areas, and so they just sort of came up with ways for you to be jumping up on the background, right? There
100%.
was like cabinets, or there was a dresser, or there was a stand of some kind, or something like that. And so we're just coming up with like, something to get you, because what I don't want is you just like run along the bottom and click on everything that comes along as you go on the bottom.
Like you're exploring the world in such a way.
Is your mic on in the back here?
You didn't get that? Didn't get any what? Or do we have to work on our mic situation there?
So, like, I think this is a cool idea. I would like the thing of, what if there was just like a generic background we could sort of put on like a majority of these rooms to start building them out to be like, what are you doing in each room, right? Like, what are you sort of finding in?
And that's what I was thinking, is that if we went in and built what you see, and so first of all, I like the idea of using a whiteboard because it's so analog and like you can quickly prototype, and those little red lines, like I said, this is like the 4th or 5th version. I was like, okay, where would these rooms connect? Mm-hmm. How would you get to this next thing? But
that makes sense. He was away from Mike.
Actually, it's funny. Ask your questions because I want to test something. Screw it. We're on the Hangout, and this is how we hang, y'all. So we had audio issues, and I have something that I'm going to try real quick. So just keep asking the questions. I absolutely believe that's where we're headed with this.
Hey, is this some kind of lapel mic or something that you're a roving mic that you're gonna get?
Yes, it is.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I guess my main thing that I was gonna that I was nervous about this is, and so I don't think that like, oh, we can't do it or it's going to take too long or anything like that, is it just feels like it's hard to make something that is like fun to play and has the right like sort of moment to moment beats at it. And I feel like we're going to make things and we're going to be running around in it, and it's going to be too complex or people aren't going to understand how it works. So I think at first we need to maybe make this like 3 or 4 little levels, right? That you're running back and forth in on. And I feel like if you could get one thing right, Like, let's say you could say like, hey, you're showing up and you're, Roby's coming in from the cemetery and the funeral, and he comes in and he does his first little like front outside area and then comes into the lobby and does the bar, and there's one like sort of fun interaction there where you have to find something which triggered something else. Like, that's where I guess if we could get that and the art could look like how we feel like a majority of the art is going to look, and the area looks like how we're going to jump up on things, and that is fun, then I would be like way more like, okay, that could be a fun game. We could just repeat that 15 seconds every time, right? Or that 30 seconds.
Do you hear anything different here?
Or I can't.
Anybody hear anything different? I don't know. If I'm stepped away from the microphone, we're just doing a little test here, just because I never get to have the test of something going on. So I'm at a different mic right now. Do you hear me differently? Check.
I don't think I can hear it.
Here, wait. Turn off the mics for just a second.
Okay.
Check. 1, 2. Do you hear something? I think you should be able to hear me right now. Sounds the same to you? We don't have any of the mics on in this room. Right this second. So the only mic you're hearing is me. So if you're hearing me right now, this is a test. Thank you guys if you're hearing us, because hearing us? Can we get something in the chat? No? Check 1, 2. All right, did anybody hear anything there? Oh, they were hearing us. So okay. So I have a lapel mic on right now. So if that's the case, you should be able to hear us, because so anyways, what you're saying is like a prototype, better-ish. Okay, well,
I think you're gonna have to, like, it's better when I can hear it when you put your mouth right next to it, unfortunately,
when I
but
get the
it just
pickups
needs
on this.
it just
So
needs
I'll work
out.
on that. This is a lapel. I spent a lot of money on this damn mic kit. I'm just gonna tell you that. So
Just gotta turn it up.
I'll have to figure it out. Needs more gain. Maybe I just need to talk into it like this.
Yeah, right.
See, if I talk into it like this,
yeah,
I
then it
have
sounds perfect.
A little mic. But okay, thanks for the little test on that. It's always helpful to get some feedback from like real people. Me running around and listening to it has never been fun. But yeah, prototype then. What is it? I was thinking like front side lobby, bar, lounge, museum, or something, like 4 or 5 of these little areas.
Yeah.
We create a little game. The demo was quick. Like that's a version of it. But now we have to build out like 3 or 4 of these rooms.
Lobby, bar, museum.
Lobby, bar, museum.
I could see that being, because then you could get a bunch of clues inside the museum. Like there would be people to talk to, and the lobby would be like where you first start out and get things. And like one lobby, small, bar, huge, museum, medium.
Okay, it's bothering me. How do you spell freaking museum?
That's how you spell museum.
Is that? It just looks so wrong. That's how you spell museum, right?
I think I'm like not an amazing speller. Museum. I mean,
is the S and the E supposed to be different?
Yeah,
I think they're spelled. All right, whatever. It's just bothering me because I don't know how to spell it, and it's not like I don't have tools to figure that out. So what I was hoping to come out of today's hangout,
sure,
is what is the things that we should focus on. I thought it would be better to like not do like just bar stuff, but like I like the idea of like a back alley or like a garden. Because it's different. It's like different atmosphere.
Sure. But that's why I think you don't want it as your beginning. You want it to just be like, oh, I can use the same exact background over and over again.
I was
right?
thinking prototype though, if we were thinking of different stage types.
Well, so this is one thing that I had a question sort of for the, like, I'm thinking Home Alone game when I think about our game at this point. Not very much verticality. Like you were not going up.
No.
Like the ceiling is the height of the room that you're in, right? And you're not going up through anything. You're kind of stuck in that area. Is that what you're thinking? Like you would do like horizontal transversal more than you would be doing like
I wanna do
vertical.
both. I think you have to have the up and the down.
Okay.
I think that's a big piece of this.
So let's say the one that I was showing you that sort of had the 3D kind of floor that you're on, like the one that you liked better of the two.
Yeah.
You know, it had like jumping up onto the lights and everything. Do you picture like the screen moving with that? Like how does that work like in game? Like is it following me up?
Yeah.
Or is that a completely different scene that you're now going
so
into?
There's two answers to that. Is the first thing is 144 high, 166 wide.
Mm-hmm.
So in all of the scenes that I scoped out, they would always be 144 high.
Okay.
If you wanted to double it and you were at 288, then it would follow you as you go up. But then again, we're limited by the 192 on those tiles that we can use.
Mm-hmm.
But what you could do is like imagine the balcony up here. Like you could have it to where there's a trigger that once you walk into that trigger, like pretend there was a ladder or something like that, and right when you click in that trigger, it would like fade back, and you would be in a completely different scene. Reset on the 192.
That's what I feel like
you're transitioning.
Like that's what I feel like going from the bar to the bar attic or something like that, right? Is like you're like, oh, now I'm climbing up the ladder. And now I'm transitioning into the bar attic as opposed to platforming and jumping around inside of it. And if you're like, hey, we're never going to platform away from 144 pixels tall, then like maybe that's just a limitation of it, right? Like, because then at some point, everything you see on the level as you're walking back and forth is what you get. Right. Like there's no hidden thing above there. Like you're seeing every single pixel that you could possibly see in that room
as you go left and right.
Going left and right. And then I guess how are things hidden or different that you're finding? Is the platforming you getting up to the very top left corner? Like where you're finding the key? Like, let's say the key, right?
Yeah.
Like, let's say you got to look for something. So, you know, to get down to the basement, to get into the museum, you need to find the key because no one's been in there forever, right? And so now you're looking and you're trying to find the key. Like, I think we need to come up with, like, what is one scenario? Because we're sort of talking, like, in generic things at this point. You're like, yeah, you're getting a thing and you're going and doing something with it, right? Like I think like with the prototype is we need to be like, here's the fun interactive actual thing that you're going to do, and you're going to go and find that up here and bring it back down here and show it to a guy. So like if we can find that and we feel like that is then fun for this one little area, then I feel like then you're great. You just go, hey, how long do we want to make this game? Because let's say that takes 3 minutes to figure out your prototype. Then you'd be like, well, if we want a half an hour area of this, like we're going to need this many rooms kind of around it, right?
You're right on what I was thinking. And that's maybe why I'm thinking this way, is that this is the prototype to say it takes you. I've watched people play this multiple times. I've given it to people in hand, and I think Heather was like, don't tell Jason how to go through this level and figure out the little grenade thing. So part of it is that once we know it, it's going to be hard to time it because we know we need to go to the grenade or do something. So you got to like have that exploration time. But I imagine that you've come into the level and you're let's just pretend you got right into the bar. So now you're in the bar for the first time. Mm-hmm. You're like, okay, cool. You look around the bar. You probably run around, you know, some people might be trying to jump on things and you're just kind of looking like, how far does this go? And you find this, you're like, okay, there's a ladder over here and I'm just going to grab the gun for now. Like I even made it to where like you can't get on the ladder by jumping. So you're like, okay, there's a ladder over there. Shoot, there's a key. Like a lot of people go in there and they're like, how do I get on this ladder to get to that key? Mm-hmm. And so then they're like, all right, let me look around. Let me see some of these other pieces. So at first you're exploring levels. So this is a couple minutes of just trying to see some things. Okay, you need a key.
And to me, like, I would think that there would be like 6 different things to click on. This. Like, there's a dude at the bar, there's a picture on the wall, there's a jukebox to play, and there's also like a bottle to grab or something.
Every world has 30 triggers that you can trigger.
Right.
So triggers are not sprites. So for instance, this is a trigger. I actually built this. It's on the background.
Mm-hmm.
And then you take this trigger and you put on it. So I wanted just to differentiate between things. So this little AI guy that's going around, that's an actor. And if it's a small level, like I'm going to go to this one, this tavern room, you can only ever have 10 actors. So there's one AI actor. There's a thing that you pick up that's an actor. There's your HUD that's an actor. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. And then this is an actor, the little grenade. So there are your 5 actors. 2 of them are already taken up by the HUD, and then 2 of them are this. So we can't put like actors in there, and actors aren't just like enemies. They're different things that you pick up and different things like that. But the triggers, those are like dialogue boxes. Those are like changing values and things that could be anywhere within your entire world. So there's a lot of little like triggers that you could run through that might be throughout this world. Like you could like up to 30 things that you can interact with, get a dialogue, get something in there. Like it could literally be that if you climbed up this thing and like jumped off a little bit, you would like fall into a trigger that would say, hey, you stepped on a brick, or, you know, I don't know. There's a lot of little things that you could put within an entire world, 30 of them.
Yeah.
To be in fact.
Are some of those triggers like used in Sprite going back and forth, or using the, like you were saying with like here, where like, oh, when it triggers it at a different time, now the painting gives you a different set of dialogue options.
There's one trigger, and the one trigger then has all of those different options. So this one trigger is, you touch it, it's just one area, and then you build a whole crap load of stuff when you hit that. And basically you're saying, when you touch trigger, do one of these bazillion things. And none of the coding really takes any of the space. Mm-hmm. It's just the fact that it's the trigger.
Yeah.
But each door, and so if I click on a door, how I built it, it says, hey, if you're touching this trigger and you hit up, change the scene, go to another scene. And so these little, what do you call them? Let me see if I can zoom out of this. I guess I can't with the wheel. But see these, if I click on this scene, those blue lines that are like connecting the world, I'll zoom in a little bit. So what's happening is if I start here and I put this little red play button, that's your player. And it's saying, hey, do this thing, show the double drop down, like don't show the player, give the player health. So give the value of their health to 6, and then on the HUD, give it a value of 5. So there's a way of saying like your HUD is now like set up. So it's basically player setup. So actually it's important to have the scene because you're setting up some kind of like criterion values. Then it just does some stuff like, hey, start at black, fade the screen in, do all the crap to make double drop down show. Once that's done, it just runs through those little things, wait for 3 seconds, and then go to the screen here. Then it cuts up in a whole bunch of new things that trigger off. It's like, new game, choices. Right. Do you want to save? Do you want to do that? Once you hit continue, and you'll notice this little blue thing, and I can kind of grab it around. You're saying, like, when the game loads, load your character right here in the game.
Right. Okay.
And then any one of these triggers... Are you?
I don't think is my mic on?
Yeah, I think it is. I don't know. Talking to it a little bit.
Hello?
Yeah, I think you're on.
Okay.
All right. So then when you get into one of these areas, like this trigger is saying, hey, if you walk into this door, and it's on the same scene, come out this door and back and forth. All right. So for instance, like, let's say now that we have this new scene in here, like if you go in this door, let's have you go into this scene. Okay. So now if we start the game, We'll just do the whole run through of what's going on. And I'm part of this is just kind of teaching you so you can like understand like how you can connect all these things together. Is that it's going to start the game, and we'll pull that over there. The game starts. We're going to say new game. Cool. We're in the game. So if I go in this door, it actually takes you to that other side of this door, which is just the other side of that map.
Oh, sure.
But now if I go in this door, you're in the bar.
Nice.
So you would imagine like what you really need to do is in this scene, there's got to be like a door over here, or maybe that door is like right here.
Yeah.
So it looks like you've just stepped into another room, and it's like that little like fade was helping you kind of run through that. And this little play button helps you put your character and test the crap of the game so that you're not like constantly having to watch the start of the game and do all that kind of stuff. So all right, here we go. We started the game right where we wanted to go. I'm going to have to make our little screen a little bit smaller. So we go into that door. Where are we going to start? Or go when we go in this door?
This is the other bar.
Yeah, we just walked into the other bar. And then what you would typically do is you would have a door.
Yeah. I don't think my mic is working.
Did we like...
Something happened?
Hold on a sec. I think Ryan's foot hit it. Talking there now.
Hello? Hello? Yeah, that's it.
Ryan's Ryan actually rocked your own mic. That's hilarious. All right. So so where we're at now is I think we're in this point where you kind of see how we connect all of those different pieces, and you're able to like jump between those different spaces by using those triggers.
Yeah, so if I had to say, cuz we're getting towards the end here, like for next time, I feel like we should try to do those 3.
That's what we need to figure out. What are the 3?
Yeah. Or like it's almost like it's not even about the rooms that we create. I guess it is just because we want to practice like going in and out and doing things and maybe bringing things from one to the other. I don't know how much you have that done, but it's like what is the one activity that we want to make, right? Like of going and learning about something, revealing finding something, going and using it over there, and like having that be interesting and fun, right? I feel like is our first test of this.
Okay, so if this is our world, and we already said it, you're like, the bar has to be our starting point.
Right.
Let's just because it's all about Skull Bobs. That's where we started. So we have to have that part. What are the subsequent places that you would go that would be fun, that don't take a lot of extra effort to like...
It's almost like what could we make quickly that would allow it to be different enough that we could test something else with it, right? Is it like, are there elements of backgrounds that we want to, like, do we want one where you're very vertical and jumping around, and then there's one where you need to like reveal something, or...
Yeah.
I don't know.
So what I think we got to start with, just be honest, is like, let's get 3 or 4 different environments. We got a bar done. What are the ones that we want to focus on? So like, what would be interesting enough?
I kind of want to do museum, because then we could do the Skull Bob's like case that he is in, right? And lots of pictures on the wall, and like things to pick up on the ground or something.
So we got tavern, museum. This is all for the prototype. I would say I think we need to do like not just one room off the tavern, but like a second room off the tavern as well. Okay. So I like the idea of like a closet and maybe the secret room.
Okay.
Because then you kind of have to like go a couple levels deep to then come back to the museum, because to get to the museum, you go 1, 2, 3 to get back. So this gives you like a deeper test of something.
Is there anything in terms of like mechanics that we are going to need that we don't have yet for this first? Like, is it getting a key, or is there an inventory that we need to be able to have, or like a pop-up thing with a person talking or information or something.
Like one that stands out is we have to interact. Okay, let's get to H.E. Higley's original thing, because I think we got to go with what the chat said. Is one of the areas that I think we should focus on is that if you go to the jukebox, the first time you go to the jukebox, you'd be like, yeah, a song is playing. And we do like what I showed you earlier, where we have the switch to where like a song is playing. And maybe when we go back into, let's say, the secret room, we find like a jukebox coin.
Right.
Like there's something that we need to do. Like maybe you go into the museum. The museum gives you the key to get into the tavern closet. And then once you're in the tavern closet, you find a clue that you have to get back in the tavern that then opens the secret door. So kind of like you're having to go back and forth between the two things.
Yeah.
And then when you get into the secret room, you get you found a key. And then you end up coming back into the tavern, or not a key, sorry, a coin for the jukebox. And and when you touch the coin, it will increment that value or whatever on the jukebox. And now you go and touch the jukebox and you're like, you inserted a coin. And then it's like, it plays some song or something like that.
So does the coin need to show up? Like, because I imagine, I don't know how like scripted you were thinking it. Like, do they need to do the coin? Like, so this would be a larger game, but like, do they need to do the coin thing first, or could they find the coin at some point just because they're looking around and learning things about the world, and then, you know, go and find the cricket bat, you know, way before they find, you know, that, oh, right, I got to use the coin in the thing. So is it like a, you know, because I was looking at other Game Boy games where they would be like, oh, you know, the top bar is like, here's my health and here's how many guys I have and here's like whatever the level that I'm on. And then at the bottom is like, here's the inventory that I have. Or were you thinking like you would go into an inventory and have things in there?
I think
like,
you could we just figure out how many we want to have, and we'd have to figure out what the limit is. The inventory was for us to say you can have X amount of actors in a scene.
Yeah, I like that, Mike, as well, because like the idea that he would go up in when he interacts with it, it's like, he's like, this takes coins? Like, I don't have any coins, you know? You're like, it doesn't take my phone to do it. You know, he's like trying to put his phone on it. Like, it's accepted. It's like, nope, you need an old school Skull Bob's coin to play the right record or something.
Well, and I think what the little bit of mechanics we would do a little bit more of is that if you found the coin, you would go to the jukebox and it wouldn't just even auto trigger. You'd have to be like, go and be standing on the jukebox, open the inventory and be like, try the coin, and then it would do it.
See, I feel like it's like the adventure game. You're like, take every piece of equipment that I have and rub it on every piece of other equipment.
I mean, we could go that route.
I feel like that's like too far.
Okay, I'm glad you said that, because then that would have been extra work on my part. I think once you have the coin, the second you touch it, it already increments your value in the variable to like number 2. So the next time you touch the thing, and but you still have to go touch it and like hit up on your thing, because you have to correlate coin and jukebox.
And does it take coin away then from your inventory or whatever?
We can totally make it do that.
Right. So I guess there's things that like you could do. Like, I don't know how hard any of that stuff is to build, right? So what you should be thinking about is like, what is the minimum level of interactions that it would take to tell the story and be fun? Because I'm sure it could be, you know, there's 1,000 different things you could do.
Like what we just described, I think is generally a pretty good prototype, because we get interaction with a trigger.
Yeah.
You find something.
So maybe that's what we should be thinking about, is like, what are the interactions that we want to test, and what do we want to build out for the prototype, which is, you're thinking add something to inventory and I think mine might be, because they'll be like not only platform issues, but or platform things to think about for the prototype, but also like the design part of it. Like I want to have I want to have other characters in the world that when you go up to them and say something, like their dialogue box pops up or something, or like I also would love guys in the world to be like have 3 frames that they do, so they're like sitting there and then they do like a and then they put it down, right? And then it's random how many times they pull their thing up to drink, and then when you go and talk to them, click, it triggers the thing that has like their little whatever their little clue. And I imagine we're not going to have the thing of like, and then what does Roby say? Oh, Roby says cool, or Roby says bye. It's more like they say a sentence. And that's it.
So one thing I did think about this, and one thing I think would make it more interesting, is that let's say you go to a person and you talk to them. They could always be like, "Hey, Roby, how you doing?" And then you go away. You come back, "Hey, Roby," hi, and that's gonna suck.
Yeah.
We could make that switch statement happen to where you could say like, "This guy has 10 things he says," and we use AI to come up with the 10 things.
Yeah.
And every time you talk to him, it'll just randomly pick one of those things.
Totally.
Like, I think that would make it really cool.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm leaning into, is like when you said earlier in the game, like, what has somebody done that you could do? Like, that's it.
Yeah.
Interacting and having like unique dialogues that could kind of come out of it. So every game will be somewhat randomized, because you might talk to the guy only twice, and in the 2 times you talk to him, you get 2 random things he said.
Well, and I feel like that's a super sweet way to use AI, kind of like through the back end, right? Is just like, hey, ChatGPT, write me 10 things of dialogue for this guy and make sure that they are less than 60 characters each. And as a surly bar person, or as a cool tourist, lady who's gawking at the skull right now, or whatever.
I think totally. And here's one thing that I don't think you know about, but right now, if we do all those dialogues and they're all nested into like pieces of this world, like how terrible. Like, so let me give you an example. So I click on this trigger. There's where this little dialogue is, like nested into this code, right? Mm-hmm. Well, over here, if I go to Game World, they have a dialogue review. And it'll say, here is all the dialogue in each of these areas. So, like, if I go to the tavern, here are all those dialogue things and you can edit it right in there.
Nice.
So it gives you kind of like an area of like, where is it in the game? And we have like one like zoomed out view of like where dialogue happens. So, this one happens on the vial. This one happens on the page. This one happens on the key or when you pick up certain things.
Right.
So I just wanted to like point out that like we could focus in just on dialogue and really be able to work through like the little pieces on there. Now, some of the dialogue is like, I think this just like shows some variables or something like that. I don't know if there's anything else. Nothing to load here. Find us a double drop down. So it's like,
that's like the windscreen.
Yeah. So you have all like, it's pretty sweet because you could kind of zoom out from the game and really focus on the dialogue as long as we put the dialogue box in there.
Yeah. I feel like we're going to really have to, even for what we should figure out too, is some kind of way to collaboratively in between these, because I feel like we've been doing a lot of, like Adam goes off and works on a thing, right, for 10 days, and Ryan goes off and works on a thing for 10 days. And then a few days before the thing, we sort of show each other. And then we, whatever changes we make before the show. I feel like for this type of thing, like we need the mural board or whatever to say like, here's what I think, the point to point of like the interactions that happen and what story we want to tell and who it triggers who and like that. And so that I can go in, right? Like, let's say Adam lays out his sort of, 10 things that happens in our, prototype, and I could add little comments or something and be like, What if it was like, behind the bar was they were talking with someone? What if instead of a patron, it was the bartender or something? And then we could sort of go back and forth, because I feel like if it's just Adam comes up with the entire thing for this prototype of like the interaction for 10 days. And then I feel like this is the part that needs to be the interactive
100%.
because like the art stuff was good and I was doing that and the platform stuff was good and you were doing that and they could be in separate worlds. But now when it comes together for this part, this is like where we need the mind meld.
I'm not. I mean, we're at the point.
Yeah.
You've been able to learn the tools.
Yeah.
I've been able to learn the mechanics. I got to be honest. I
Totally.
was learning these tools, so it's just like the
Yeah.
natural next evolution of the game.
Yeah.
So what we've done is we said we want to add something inventory, talk with people in the bar, background players, like some sort of animation. We're gonna have some dialogue that's random.
Yeah.
Okay. So then what we do next is I think we just take your advice, we put it in the mural board, and then we're just going to have some chats off to the side. So you don't get to see this part.
Hey.
I guess you get to see the we're planning the next steps of this process.
But I think like as Adam and I go through it, we'll just take screenshots and we'll put it into the Discord, right?
Hell
or
yeah.
something like, and we'll just like add it in there. And so you won't be doing it in real time, but you'll see like sort of the progress of it.
So next up, I'm gonna go and paste what the latest demo is. So
Yeah.
I'll get that up on the site so you can play through the latest demo.
Yeah.
We're gonna start focusing on this. So by next time, we either will have it somewhat like prototyped out or we'll be working on it next session.
Yeah.
I think that would probably be a good way to do it. So we do have our every other Thursday meeting. So we actually do this without
every single Thursday we meet with each other. It's just half of the time it's not
I was
recorded.
thinking like maybe we should just do
record it.
just do the Thursday session and we just do like the quick hour because we do it about an hour or 2 hours. That might be a way to do it.
Just I always feel like the only bad thing is like you feel like you need to be on or like it needs to be interesting or it
true.
needs to be like
But it's behind the scenes.
Yeah,
we call
I guess
it
that's
the
true.
hangout and then behind the scenes.
behind the scenes at the hangout.
Yeah, we curse. We talk about a bunch of other stuff. How's your week doing?
It's all politics and other.
I know, but I mean, it's so. I think this is the fun part of this is that.
Yeah.
People don't. Not everyone just hangs out and creates things,
Yeah.
and that's what's I think I really appreciate about this is that we get to go be creative
Yeah.
and like flex that muscle.
Totally.
All right, so just to recap, we're gonna do museum, closet, secret room, and bar.
Yeah.
If we decide we needed another space to make it more dynamic, we can figure that out. But we don't even have to have the like. I don't want the pressure for you to be like, oh, I have to have these fully realized rooms.
Right.
But I think you should do. We got to pick right now. What is the style? Like, which one do you want to like emulate out of all these ones we talked to tonight?
I think this one, right?
All right, let's look at the one we're talking about here.
Like I think that one's the one that you seemed like the most into, and
What do you think? I mean, what's your perspective?
I think this one, keeping it in one, this one is like very stays in one level, right? Like
Yeah.
stays in the 144. And I like the look of this.
Yeah, I do too.
I'm nervous that there's not going to be enough places to hide things or things to do or click on or interact
I
with.
see what you're saying.
So that like you're just running through these levels and going click, read that, read this, and then you're like, that's done with this level, and then you're like into the next thing, as opposed to the one where you're jumping around and like being in the taller thing is like.
Isn't that the point of this one though?
Well,
is to prototype it and see how long it lasts.
Yeah. So I think like that's what we should be doing, right? Is like, hey, what can we do in these levels? I think if we can find that like little bit of fun, the little bit of fun of solving our one puzzle that we're going to do or one kind of back and forth, if we can be like, hey, that is fun and we can nail in what makes that fun, then I think like we'll be on a easy road, because we'll be like, all right, what are just the variations of that we do across an entire storyline and all sorts of different worlds and stuff like that. Like really then you would just say like, great, it's variations of that across the entire game.
Yes, and one area I was thinking is like we need a cutscenes.
Oh, right. Like what does that even like how do they get triggered, right? And
I've actually heard cutscenes are like pretty damn easy.
yeah,
But they're the one thing that will eat up memory because like you can get super artsy in a cutscene more than you can other scenes, and so we have to be very like.
Because how does
careful.
that work? How does the cutscene work in the sense of? Is that just another where I only have a certain amount of? Is it like a square room where pixels are just flashing and animating in that room, basically, with no character in them?
It is basically just a background that's animated. And there's something, and I've read about it, like it gives you a certain amount of more pixels than normal, or something happens where it's like, if it's considered a background, it like doesn't use the sprites and triggers. And it's because of that, it gives you more of the nice parts.
Because I did hear if you have rooms that have dialogue in them, you get less unique pixels per room that you're in, and all of our rooms are going to have dialogue in them if I had to guess. So in that case, we're down even less unique pixels.
Well, and I think this is the point. We're just we got to give it some goes and like let's see where we run into some issues and see if we can realize a vision. So it's like we're going to push it as far as we can to get it immersive. But in some of these rooms, for instance, like if you walk behind a barrel, you could have something that you have to like hit up the trigger. Like the triggers, you have 30 triggers in this room. Maybe you put it on one of the bottles.
You're right. Well, and then you have to be like, does anyone understand this? Right. Like, because then you have to give dialogue to a bunch of different pictures and people and things like that goes like, oh, that Robert Decker, he loved his, something whiskey, right? And there's only one bottle of it behind the old bar, that he always loved.
That's the fun part of it,
and
right?
then somebody else goes like, hey, I found this like piece of paper, behind the bar that talks about Robert Decker's favorite whiskey or whatever. Like, it all has to be things that point towards that.
But that's, I think, what I'm trying to get to is the point where we have like we're just building the story and building the fun parts.
Right.
Like I feel like I've got probably 80-90ish% of the mechanics down that we would need, plus some tweaks in there that needs to happen. But if you took that bucket of items, that's like your 15 seconds. So you're picking up things, you're getting powers, and it's giving you different abilities that you need to do. So if you went in and like, okay, here's an example. Like, what if you could get a bottle and when you drink it, you get like 30 seconds of dash? And so maybe you go to the bar and you always have to go to the bar and you have infinite amount of times that you can drink something.
Right.
So you drink it and then you like run to the secret room because you only have dash for a certain amount of time to like get somewhere. We got to also realize this is a Game Boy game.
Yeah.
And Game Boy games are limited, and they're also, and I played a lot of them, they're a lot of bullshit. I'm going to just be honest. Like, you're like, are you for real? Like, most of the Game Boy games I played when I was a kid, I could never beat because they're too damn hard.
Yeah.
And we're trying to make it to where like it has that hardness, but it also has the fun to like actually complete it. My favorite Game Boy games were the ones I could beat.
Yeah. Well, and we have decades of video game refinement of that they didn't have when they were making original Game Boy games. So you're like, I know what works and what doesn't kind of work.
Yeah. I think we got it. I'm very confident that we can figure it out. We may not have every little problem solved, but
well, and I feel like this first little test will really help us. Like if we could be like, here is a real thing that you would really do in the game and the interactions that you would do with it, and it seems interesting and fun, and we put it out as something, and then you'd be like, yeah, people get it, they understand that. Then you make it to the entire bar area, and then you go, is that fun? Because now we have 10 interactions, that are going through to get you a bat and get you double jump and get you a dash.
And so if I could, as like kind of like a just to show you, so we have this, it's called the GB Studio Discord, and you start to look at what the hell other people are doing out there. This is maybe where I get some of my confidence a little bit, is because I've been watching what other people have been doing in other games, And I'm like, man, they're going way more complex and they're showing a lot of different things. And so I wanted to see if I could find this one guy's game. This is one of their more like complicated like coding channels where they talk about like all this stuff that they might be able to do. They have this so if you've not been on this thing, like they have some pretty cool looking like
it's like Joust.
it does look like a Joust game. But people are it's Small Pleasant. Okay, that's just the guy's name. So they're asking questions like, how do I get the cool lights, or how do I do these things in my game? But there was I don't know if it's in this one. I think it was this guy. That's a cool little character.
Oh yeah.
That got posted while we were on the stream. But there was this guy in here, and I'm just gonna scroll fast. I don't know if he's in here. So there's a lot of like interaction here. It says like, okay, what's this guy doing? I don't know. How do I fix the graphical issues? So he'd go into the side, little like dude walking around in worlds. So there's this huge community out here that can help you out with things. So here was a example of like a little game, and it's using the colors. We never talked about that.
It's like a Pokemon.
It's totally a Pokemon kind of game. So as you start to look through some of the games that people are making and some of the like things, like I think it like helps boost you to be like, oh man, I got a lot. Like, you know, what we're making is simple compared to some of these other things that somebody are creating. And it happened so long ago that this guy had made a really amazing looking game. Like here's some sprites that they're talking about and how they kind of work on those sprites. I know, I'm just kind of, that was a cute little character. I like that guy.
Little TV head.
Yeah. But there's a gentleman that is building a game. I think it's actually really close, if I'm not mistaken. Like here's a little Metrovania game, which is just a picture. Like, look how cool that little world looks. I think this is a cutscene.
Oh yeah, nice.
Crazy amount of animations, but this was from like a different game, Golden Sun. They're like, people are trying to say like, hey, I have this sprite, how viable would it be for me to like find that? Like there's sprite sheets of the different characters that you might pull into game, and that's probably why you were saying that it would take away from some of the pixels, because it's literally just pixels that do the code of that. So anyways, I just wanted to show you that there's a lot of things that are going on in here. One of the things that we do have within this this world is they have works in progress and other people that are working on things. So if you go to works in progress forum, there's a main side for like works in progress. Now this one looks like a crazy game. That looks really good. I bet you this is where that guy. That's definitely not in a Game Boy game. But where is our works in progress?
We played Mortal Kombat on the Game Boy, and it definitely did not look like that.
It was not. I have Skull Bob's in here. Skull Bob's Adventures.
Nice.
So it's almost like our devlog in here, so you can kind of see like what we've been doing. So like we've been dropping the character. I put like, hey, we've been working on this. Here's some things that we've been working on. So we are in there as well.
Perfect.
Anyways, I think it was fun tonight. Like this like was a formative night for us because we started to figure out where we headed next. What are the next pieces of it? When do we start this? January?
Yeah.
We're like just past a little bit midway of March. Tell me we don't feel like we're actually making progress. If we were at this point, we were like, how do you put a pixel into this thing? You could pick things up. You got Game Boy backgrounds. Now you figure out you're in a sprite and you're a tiled. You got progress here.
Yeah. I think like having this next step where we're doing the prototype will be great for like, what is a legit background? Like if we wanted it to look cool and be how the style that we want and a storyline that we could tell one little bit of a story and that's fun. I feel like that's good progress. We definitely weren't there last week.
Not at all. All right. Well, if you have any suggestions right now tonight, we're still on the jukebox. That's probably one of the last ones that we figured out. Hey, I found the game I wanted to show Ryan really quick, so I'm going to show it in GB Studio. This guy has been working on this game, and This is a Game Boy Color game, Ryan.
Okay.
Tell me that doesn't look freaking...
The like lightning flashes. Are the lightning hitting him?
In certain cases, look at the leaves when he hits the leaves.
Oh, nice.
So he was asking about the lightning there and saying, like, you know, how does that look? That was it.
Nice.
But tell me that, like, you wouldn't imagine that to be a Game Boy game, right?
No. That's awesome.
So we're in the green world. We didn't even get into the idea of, like, painting some of the stuff. Oh, crap. We didn't show anybody that. That was my bad. I'm sorry, everyone. You did not see that. So if you were looking at it, I feel like I'll just do like a little bit of it again. But sorry. Thanks for letting us know on that. But what we were trying to get at is that Game Boy games themselves don't have to look like this green. And that's been one of the other things that we probably should have talked about is like color. But we maybe not.
Yeah, I almost feel like it still needs to look cool in the greens, and then we can go in and color it. But at least for this prototype.
All right. Well, you get the point. We got some cool things that are going. Like this guy has been building this game. I've been following what he's been doing in the system. So, hey, we are.
Ooh, what about? Do you want any kind of sound? Should we do any sort of sound in it? Like even just to have something in there that something triggers a sound to happen.
Thank you for bringing that up in the last minute of our thing.
Yeah.
What I wanted to say with that, yeah,
Of
lighting.
course, we just need full light. Just steal that guy's stuff.
So when we talk about sound, one thing I did want to say, and because I've been really getting away from this, is in this game world, if you go in here, they also have the music section, which we have really not done much else. But if you click on these songs, I don't know if we talked about this, is that you...
The idea that we're gonna make our own music, I will have no part in that. So if you want to do that, more power to you.
There's the new Skull Boss theme. I love it. Is that? I mean, it's kind of crazy that you could do. That's terrible. I'm sorry. That was bad.
Well, you're just randomly putting things there.
But it's
you can't like. There's nothing that like takes real music and turns it into that type of chiptune.
It's called humans.
Yeah.
Humans that make it. Like there's all these kind of correlations. There's a couple people online. Mike Azul has maybe mentioned somebody that composes music. Maybe there's some options there. I don't know.
Yeah. We had our original composer of Skullbombs. We would like take their music and chip tune it.
I mean, that could be a thing. I just don't know how to get it in the game, and we have to get the right format. But hey, it has been a great night. I feel like we answered a lot of questions. Thanks for doing your work on that side of it. Yeah. It's helped me to see a different vision. I'm impressed. I love the idea of that game, like having that that more perspective feel to it. It just opens it up way better. It doesn't look so like from the side. So I think you nailed it with that. Yeah. That's what we can do with those couple other worlds, and we'll see you next time with some sort of opportunity. Hey, thanks for hanging out with us tonight.
Thanks for hanging out on the Hangout with Adam and Ryan. We'll see next time, and we'll be posting stuff on Discord, so follow us on Discord.
Thank you for hanging out with us tonight, y'all.
Peace out.
We'll see ya.